Am I the a-hole for throwing away food I know my girlfriend wanted? I, 24 male, live with my 23 female girlfriend and recently threw away the leftovers of a meal I cooked because she said she wanted to try some. For a bit of background, when we moved in together we agreed that we would each only cook for ourselves and use our own dishes. My idea. The issue is sometimes she will now ask if she can have a bite of the food I am cooking, just to try it, or wants to eat some of the leftovers I cook, and then she offers to cook for both of us the next night. She now claims that is a ridiculous rule to have, and that I should grow out of the rule by now. On to the incident. I had made a stir fry and was finishing putting the leftovers in a container when she blatantly told me to just leave it out so she can have some. I, of course, said no, and that I don't want her to eat what I cook, and put it in the container and into the fridge and started to leave the kitchen. I went to the living room to grab my phone before going back to the kitchen to grab a drink when I saw my girlfriend pulling my food out of the fridge and taking the lid off. I went over to the counter and grabbed the container and dumped the food in the trash to prevent her from eating it. She stayed silent the whole time until finally calling me a jerk and storming off. I don't really think I am the jerk as we agreed to this arrangement before moving in. I knew it might be a problem, but some friends said it's time to move on from my weird obsession and just share food already. So, am I the a-hole? A few important things might be: we don't share any food, even spices, and do not share any food costs. I've never once wanted to eat the food she makes or use her cooking ingredients. I always let her go first when cooking in the kitchen, and I don't cook for friends or family either. What the hell? This is such a weird rule that OP's implied here. I agree with his friends. Why don't you just grow up and share food already? In fact, personally, I enjoy cooking food with my partner. It's a good bonding experience and it can be fun. This rule is just kind of toxic and it'll work against a relationship in the long run, as it's doing right now. Anyway, let's look at the comments. One comment says, "You're the a-hole for imposing such a weird and stupid rule that she probably assumed you would relax like a normal person, throwing out perfectly good food rather than let her taste it, failing to get therapy for whatever anxiety is driving your weird and stupid rule. 2 separate salt shakers, 2 bottles of ketchup, side-by-side carton of eggs, really? Exactly what tragedy do you think might ensue if the two of you shared a single jar of paprika? Precisely, how do you think she would get sick from having a bite of food you're eating safely? Please do not even consider the possibility of thinking about maybe perhaps having a child until you get over yourself on this topic." OP replied, "Yes, it is a bit of a logistical nightmare. I just keep all of my dry goods and dishes in my room to give her more space in the kitchen. What I gain out of having separate paprika and other food is knowing exactly where and what has happened to it. Just because I haven't gotten sick in the past doesn't mean I won't mess up in the future, and kids are way down the line for us, 5+ years. One commenter says, "Your girlfriend is pretty upset. How have you avoided uncomfortable feelings? I'm being totally genuine here. There is give and take and a process of growth together in a relationship. This will not get better with time, only worse, more uncomfortable. It's no longer about food for your girlfriend." OP replies, "We mainly avoided uncomfortable feelings by being clear with communication. I went over this issue many times before moving in, and after we moved in together. I think she just assumed it's something that wouldn't last for more than a few months or so. I can see it's no longer about food for her, but that's really all it is about for me." Yeah, OP's definitely the a-hole here in my eyes. Like, not even sharing spices. It's just so petty and meaningless. I don't know, maybe OP's obviously got some sort of OCD disorder and he can't kind of comprehend his stuff being in a different place or being less of than before. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Let's jump to the update. I'm not sure if anyone will even see this post or even care, but here's an update. I lied about a few things in the other post. Lying on the internet? I'm shocked. The ages were a lie, and we are both guys. I was just trying to make my unique situation less noticeable in case someone recognised me. It doesn't matter now though, if he sees this post. We broke up. There was just no trust about the food issue, and he wouldn't stop trying to eat my food. I looked into and got locking containers that can go in the fridge, but he said it was a violation of trust and broke up with me. I don't really get how I was the one being untrustworthy, but oh well. I'll probably go back to the dating scene and try to find someone else who respects my boundaries, but I think that might be hard to find someone as good. We both lived in our bedrooms. I don't think I'll be able to find someone as good as that, honestly. That is why the whole food thing confuses me, to be honest. He was perfectly okay with having separate bedrooms. I think he preferred it too, to be honest, but was not okay with having separate food. I don't know, humans are unique. No point in trying to understand others, I guess. In regards to commenters saying I need therapy, I'm pretty against that. My quirks are part of who I am. I would rather find someone who is okay with them than change myself. I know that will be very hard, maybe impossible, but I will keep on trying. If anybody does read this, sorry for the poor grammar and spelling. I'm tired and going to bed, but didn't know if the account would still be logged in on the morning. Just came back to this PC to see it still logged in. If it's still logged on, cool. I don't think I'll respond anyways. I don't have anything else to say, I think. Alrighty, so that's the end of that one, folks. A little bit of a twist, but ultimately, the outcome doesn't really change there. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling that they would break up anyway. Good luck to OP finding someone that's willing to deal with all those quote-unquote quirks, he calls them. I can imagine they'd be extremely annoying to deal with in real life. So, yeah, good luck finding a life partner there. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one, and we'll jump to the next story. Alrighty, our next post is a bit of a different one. It was written on the subreddit Dead Bedrooms by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Letter to My Husband. I hope you read this. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. You've posted several times in this sub complaining that I don't F you enough. You post that I shrink away from your touch, and you just don't know what to do anymore. Instead of complaining to internet strangers and making me seem like a frigid bee who might have some childhood trauma regarding sex, which isn't even true, what is wrong with you? Maybe you should try looking inward. Do you think it's maybe because you refuse to help me clean? Do you think it's maybe because of the fact that whenever I ask for your help, you tell me, well, you do it better than me, or maybe later? Or the fact that at least once a month you yell at me for not making the food correctly? Do you think it's due to the fact that you never once woke up at night for the babies and would yell at me when one of them woke you up crying? Or because of the fact that across 3 kids, you've changed maybe 5 diapers total? Do you think it's because you refuse to spend any time at all with me and the kids? I can't even remember the last time you took me on a date night. I stopped asking 2 years ago when you didn't even get me a card for my birthday. You actually woke me up on my birthday to yell at me that our son had thrown up all over his bed and I didn't clean it. If you were awake and I wasn't, maybe just do it yourself. Do you think it's because the only time you try to F me is after I'm already asleep? Do you think it's because of the fact that over the last 3 years you haven't even tried to make me come? Or that you threw away my vibrator because I shouldn't have anything except my husband inside of me? Or maybe because you kept asking me for certain sex acts you know make me extremely uncomfortable? Do you think maybe it's the fact that after the last 3 times we had sex, you've made rude comments about my extra flab and stretch marks? Or maybe was it the time I bought lingerie and you laughed and said I should have gotten a larger size? Or maybe last year for Christmas when I said it would be fun to go to a cabin in the snow, just us, for my birthday, you instead got me personal training sessions and told me this will help with my attraction. Do you think it's because of the fact you constantly talk about how hot your new coworker is? Or the fact that you go to a strip club almost every Friday after work instead of spending time with your wives and kids? Please explain to me why I would want to have sex with you. Why? When the only times we do have sex, it lasts 3 minutes, and afterwards you just roll over and tell me to get myself off. How can I when you throw away my vibrators? Maybe instead of coming to Reddit and making me seem like the bad guy, fix yourself first. F you. Words don't describe the contempt I feel for you after finding your multiple posts across different subs about how I hate sex and am possibly asexual. I love sex. I used to have good sex. I miss it. I don't miss you anymore. I hope you frickin' read this. Don't believe everything you read here, people. There's always another side. And to all the men complaining here that their wives don't F them enough, maybe stop to consider the fact that you might be the issue. Rant over. Holy moly, that wife went in hard with that letter. I'm kind of interested to see the post that the husband wrote now. I wonder what they're like. But yeah, the husband sounds like a piece of work. I'm surprised OP's still with him, to be honest. Alright, let's jump to the first update. He read the post. He disagreed with everything I said, and we've been living apart since he screenshotted my post and asked if it was about him. The gist of it is that he thinks that I don't put enough effort into being physically attractive to him, so in his mind it's okay to not put effort into sex and want to cheat. Men are visual creatures. He thinks that he should be able to experience everything he wants sexually, even if I don't want it because I'm his wife, and it's my obligation to keep him happy. That was shocking to hear. This is not the man I married. We are going through with divorce, and I couldn't be happier. My life is infinitely easier without him in it. Sorry if this is anticlimactic. I don't really have the energy to type out everything that happened. Maybe I will someday. I'm currently getting ready for a custody battle because he said he would get full custody and never let me see the kids. I truly didn't think my post would get as much attention as it did. I wrote it out of anger. Thank you to everyone who commented and reached out privately. You gave me the confidence to go through with the divorce. Oh, great. Good update. Glad to see that they're going through with a divorce. Yeah, that relationship was toxic and, over. Alrighty, let's jump to the last update. Sorry if this is not a great update. We divorced. He gets the kids' weekends only, which has left me with a lot of free time. I've been going on dates and met a lovely man who was incredible in bed. I feel so sexy again. My ex has asked to reconcile a few times, and I heard through the grapevine of mutual friends that he has been complaining about single life. Lol. Just wanted to say life gets better. This will probably be my last update on the matter. Hope you all are well, and thank you again for all the kind words and support while I was at my lowest. One commenter says, "This was an amazing update, OP. I hope you're thriving, girl." OP replies, "I am." Another commenter says, "Good for her. Although sometimes I wonder why you'd have another 2 kids with someone when they don't even help with the first. He's not magically going to start helping, unless they were triplets, of course." OP says, "I was delusional, honestly. I thought I was being the perfect wife and mother by taking care of everything. That was how it was with a lot of the women I grew up around. I guess resentment and reality just start to set in after a while. The sex wasn't always bad with him. At the beginning it was good and we both got off. I can't exactly pinpoint when he decided to give up." One commenter says, "I really wish we could dig up the husband's post and ask him how the single life is treating him." OP replies, "He tried to ask the hot co-worker out, lol. She didn't know we were divorcing, so she sent me a screenshot on Facebook where she turned him down and basically said, 'Ew, I would never date someone like you, lol.'" Alrighty folks, that's the end of that one. Seems like karma got the best of the dude in the end there. Anyway, let me know what you think about that one and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, our next post was written by a throwaway account and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for kicking my son's girlfriend out of our house?" My husband, 58 male, and I, 56 female, recently met my son's, 24 male, girlfriend for the first time. He's been crazy about her. Apparently they've been dating for a year before he decided to have her meet us officially. What he's told us all about her seems great. She just got her degree, was enjoying her job, family orientated, etc. I'm honestly just glad he's happy with her. My husband and I don't think he's ever been this into someone before, so I feel pretty bad about what I did. Last weekend, he brought her over for dinner. By now we'd been anticipating meeting her, with how much our son had been gushing about her, how perfect she is, that she's the one, in his words. They rang the doorbell. We opened the door. She looks exactly like her pictures, which is a great start. My son is grinning ear to ear, another great start. We invite them in. She accepts my hug and a firm handshake from my husband, and then she opens her mouth. Quote, "I'm the one your son puts his penis in." To be frank, I was appalled. I expected my husband to laugh. Both he and my son are jokesters, and as annoying as it can be, I love it. But this was just too much for me. Maybe I'm reserved, but of all the things she could have shared about my son, she told us that. One look at my face and my husband knew how much I disapproved. Maybe I let my expectations get too high, and it's unfair to have them, but I reiterate, of all the things to say to her boyfriend's parents, whom she'd never met, she chose that. My son was amused at first, but when he noticed my reaction, his face dropped. I felt like he'd sold me the full package, everything he'd always been looking for in a girlfriend. I was too disturbed by the visual it put in my head, and it translated into anger. I told her to get out, and I wanted to say more about how gross it made me feel, but I fortunately left it at that. My son didn't want to go, insisting I give her another chance, but I was too fed up and uncomfortable by this point. Even my husband, who's enjoyed his fair share of raunchy jokes, wouldn't let up. They left, and I immediately felt guilty. This was something my son had really looked forward to, and I feel like I took that away over a dumb joke. I tried calling to apologise, but he hasn't responded. My husband thinks she's the one who should apologise. I'm considering giving her another chance, but before I do, was I the a-hole? Jesus Christ, what an opening line to the parents. God, that's a bit too much for me as well. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. I'm pretty liberal and open-minded, but for F's sake, I'd never lead with that meeting my boyfriend's parents for the first time, or say that, ever. Like, seriously? You opened the door and that's what flies out of her mouth? Was she nervous? Did she seem embarrassed at all? Did she try to apologise? Is there anything that could explain her inappropriate outburst? You apologised. Wow, hats off to you. Neither of you can do anything to change what happened, and it's up to her to accept the apologies or not. Don't beat yourself up. If she's decent at all, she'll understand. If she's not, then maybe good riddance. Not the a-hole. This just doesn't sit right. You said your son was all big smiles and amusement when they arrived, and up until he realised you weren't all that impressed. You also said he jokes around like that with his dad. What are the chances it was your son's idea all along, and she just regretfully went along with it? Because if that's the case, you probably can't get a hold of him because he's doing damage control with his girlfriend, who's now mortified and angry that his super funny joke gave you the worst impression of her that she could imagine. Not the a-hole. I'm the biggest jokester around. I love inappropriate jokes. I love making people cringe. But there's a time and place and reading the room. I would never do that as my first impression with my partner's parents. If into the evening we're all getting along, sure, maybe we'll get there and we'll all have a laugh, but not as the first words out of her mouth. Did you react well? No. Do I blame you? Nope. Did she even try to apologise before leaving? Like read the room, saw and heard you shooting her away, and did she go, "Oh my god, I totally started this off poorly and that joke was wholly inappropriate. I'm so sorry." ? Alrighty, I think we get the idea. Opie provides an edit for this story. I should clear some things up. My husband had no part in my reaction. I did the kicking out, not him. I don't want him taking the fall for this. He said she should apologise, but I'm not expecting an apology. Sorry for the confusion. My son lives in a nearby state. It can take about an hour to get back to where we live. He also hasn't dated anyone seriously for a while, maybe a couple of years. He told us before that he wouldn't bring anyone home unless he's sure he wants a future with her. We've been asking to meet her ever since he told us about her, but he wanted to be ready. The comment about her looking like her picture shows my age. Sorry for that. He's only shown us her photos she sent him, as he apparently didn't have any of them together. He hates taking pictures and apparently she's always teasing him about it. I don't think he'd ever lie about who she is, but it's just a parental concern I've subconsciously had. I felt the same way about my daughter's then boyfriend when we first met him. I don't have any criteria that either of my kids' spouses need to meet. I just hope my kids are happy with them. What I meant by her being the full package was indicative of what he's told us about her. As his parents, we have a good idea of what he looks for in a partner, and she checked off everything based on what we'd been told. And on top of everything, aside from what she said, her appearance was how she presented it to be. Again, we aren't strict about appearances. It's just a relief to have met someone for the first time, and they look like what you'd expected. My husband said that I was worried about second-hand catfishing, if that's even a thing, lol. I guess it shows how anxious I was about this. Also, thank you for your comments and rewards. I've had a few people reach out to me personally too. Thank you for that. Regardless of where you stand, I appreciate it. I personally think everyone needs some room for improvement here, but I've done my part to make amends, and I'm waiting on my son to call me. I'll be sure to give an update about how it goes. Alright, let's jump straight to said update. Update. Thanks for reaching out, everyone. My son got in touch with me. His girlfriend agreed to try again. We all met at a restaurant my son and his girlfriend chose. The first thing she said was an apology for what she said. I apologised for my reaction. We hugged. It was nice. She then explained how my son had convinced her a joke like that would land well, and that she wouldn't have said it if she didn't think we'd like it. According to my son, she was reluctant to open with any jokes at all, but they came up with that one together on the way over. You guys were right. She's a really sweet girl. She's actually very mature too. I see why my son likes her so much. My husband and I really like her. We told our son to bring her when he visits. We look forward to seeing them again. Overall, I'm glad we could start over, on the right foot this time. Thanks everyone for your input. I feel like I'm being mentally and financially abused, and I don't know what to do. I, 20 male, met Kelly, 30 female, at a grocery store we both worked at. At this time Kelly was in a bad spot money-wise. Rent and bills were due, so after she gets paid, her entire paycheck would go towards bills. One day I bought myself a drink out of the store and offered to get Kelly one as well out of kindness of my heart. This action would have what I think to be dire consequences. After a while, Kelly would ask me to buy her things here and there. I made good money from this job, so I had no issue buying Kelly things. A drink here, instant ramen there. I even offered to share my streaming services so that it was a couple less bills she had to worry about. Fast forward, I get fired from the store and get a new job making less money. The only upside is I got paid weekly. But Kelly's money needs got more and more frivolous. But she always paid me back sometimes on her next payday, sometimes later on, but I would always get my money back. Until she got fired from the store. Almost every day, it's like I get a new ridiculous request. Can I get $10 for gas? Can I borrow some money so I can order a pizza? Do you need a ride to work? Can we stop at McDonald's so I can get something to eat for the day? If I don't respond quick enough to her text, even when I'm at work, she'll get a PE attitude and make it known that I'm an awful friend or honorary little brother. Hey OP, can I borrow some money? 15 minutes later, oh, so F me, huh? I need you, I'm struggling, my gas light is on and I have nothing in my refrigerator, but okay, I see how it is. I'm at work right now, can you give me a second? I don't even want it anymore. Then I won't hear from her for a few days, or at least until she needs to drive or gets hungry again. As of now, she's ghosting me. I offered to take her grocery shopping. I just got my taxes and wanted to be nice. Hey, do you want to go get groceries and maybe some fast food? When? Today, whenever you feel like it. I know you're hungry. F you, I'm always hungry, but your selfish butt doesn't care, do you? That's why I'm offering to take you shopping. As of now, I have no idea what I did to deserve this silent treatment, and if I even want it to end. Reddit, what should I do? Do I just leave it alone, or is there another option? It's been almost a year and I don't know if I can go on like this. Edit. To clear up some confusion, we aren't dating, just friends. I don't know if that makes this better or worse. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments. Run. She's using you. Block her and take it as a lesson. Ordering a pizza and eating out is not for people who are broke. Those are treats. If she's having trouble feeding herself, she needs to apply for food stamps, since it sounds like she will qualify. She also needs to get local food banks and start picking up free food around town. Charities also hand out gas cards she could get to fill up her tank. Stop her from being your charity case and find out how to get her help from organisations that are designed to do that. Send a simple, Kelly, I'm really sorry, but I don't have extra money to give you. I'm struggling to pay my own things as it is, and I've given you X amount this past month. That is a lot of money. I can no longer give you money anymore. And then immediately block her. Yeah, that sounds like the right call, and this guy sounds like an idiot for not, picking up on the fact that he's being taken advantage of this quickly. Anyway, let's go to the update. Update 1. Currently it's 8:30 in the morning. I've received 2 texts from Kelly, one saying, I'm sorry for not responding, I've been asleep all day. We can still go to the store in the morning if you like. And 20 minutes later, I guess not. Have a good night, OP. I feel like I made this sound worse than it was because there were good times with Kelly, but those times were mainly when she was still employed. I think the reason I've been putting up with this is because when she got fired, she threatened to have a few of her friends rob the store, and this woman knows where I live and work. I'm going to talk to her face to face. I want her to know our friendship is over. When I first posted, I thought maybe some of you would find some redeeming qualities in Kelly, but nope. No matter how she reacts, whether it be apologetic or furious, I'm going to let her know I can't do this anymore. F Kelly. Update 2. It's 12 PM right now. Kelly called me this morning, but I didn't answer. That's actually why I was up at 8. Some Redditors wanted me to just block her, but I couldn't just walk away without letting her know how I feel. Instead of doing it face to face, I sent her what I hope will be my last text to her. If she replies, I'll update, because I really want to see her reaction before I block her. And here's the text. Kelly, do you know what it feels like to be taken advantage of? That's how I feel about you. You always take from me, but never give back. You've given me rides to work to and from, but always managed to get some type of benefit from it, whether it be gas money or fast food. I will no longer be able to help you out in the future. You're a 30-year-old woman with multiple resources that I was just made aware of, and you need to take advantage of that because I mentally can't deal with your attitude anymore. You quit your most recent job because they didn't pay you on time, But all jobs do that. You're not special. Why should you get paid before everyone else? Keep Netflix and HBO because I'll be making new accounts. Enjoy them while you still have them. I hope you can learn from this because I know I have. Goodbye, Kelly. I'd say it's been fun, but it's only been fun for one of us. Whew, that's cold. Alright, now on to the final update. All she said was, "Can you not change the Hulu password?" Yeah, she's blocked. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you all. Wow, that last quote, "Can you not change the Hulu password?" just shows how much she just didn't care about him. What an absolute waste of energy. I'm just so surprised it took OP this long to figure that out. Alrighty, so that's the end of that one, guys. We'll move on to the next one, but let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Alright, our next story was posted by user ActiveView001, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for housing my daughter but not my stepdaughter?" Hi everyone, this is a doozy and I think I might be the a-hole, but I wanted some opinions. I'm a 48-year-old male who inherited a beach house from my grandfather. The house has been in my family for generations, and it has a lot of sentimental value to me. I'm now with my long-term girlfriend for 7 years after a divorce from my first wife, which ended on good terms. She has a daughter from a previous marriage, and I have a daughter from my marriage as well. Our daughters are each 17, with mine being basically 3 months younger. Kara, the oldest, will be 18 in May. Kara has been in my life for 7 years, and we've had a good relationship. However, she has an active father in her life, so I did not fill that role. I was in her life 50% of the time, so I have no doubt I played a large role in her life, but I wouldn't say father. But others do say a non-legal stepfather. I have my daughter Emmy half-time as well, aside from summers where I had her more due to my and my ex's lifestyle. With that said, my ex and I have a good relationship, as does our daughter with all of us. Kara and Emmy have gotten along, and they are friendly. They have made plans independent of myself and my girlfriend, but they don't consider themselves sisters or best friends. Now to the issue. Kara will be going to school near the beach house and has asked if she can live in it to save money, which would be significant. Emmy approached me and has said she wanted to live there after the summer, but wanted to live alone while also in school. The home is more than big enough for two, but she pointed out that they have very different lifestyles and would be far more comfortable alone or with a friend if I insisted she lived with someone. It was a frank conversation, and she brought up the fact that the home will be hers one day, so it made sense. And she's right. The home will be hers by law in a few years, as I'll pass it on to her. My girlfriend and Kara are very upset and calling it favoritism and pointing out that she will already be set for life between having a free ride to school via scholarships and housing, while Kara will be using loans, and may have to take a gap year or attend another school altogether. They are asking me to reconsider, and I think I've damaged my relationship. Am I the a-hole for this decision? I agree that it's favoritism, but Emmy is my daughter. Of course I'm going to favour her, right? Whew, sounds complicated. Let's jump straight into the comments. The top comment says, "Not the a-hole. You're Kara's mum's boyfriend and not Kara's stepfather, seeing as you're not married. Kara's dad needs to step up and support her if money is an issue." Other posters here agree. OP is not the a-hole. This is not in any way favoritism because you aren't married and you do not share assets. You haven't legally adopted Kara, and the house isn't some asset the girlfriend will ever be entitled to. Girlfriend and Kara are acting entitled and are 100% in the wrong. I would put the house in your daughter's name as soon as she turns 18 and let them know you have no say in what she chooses to do with her property. Again, they were never entitled to any part of this lake house. Exactly, since it's mentioned that her bio dad is actively in her life. Chances are that neither Kara's mum nor dad have that kind of money, but that doesn't change the fact that the daughter who is in line to inherit that house doesn't want to live there with Kara, and apparently has non-petty reasons for that wish. OP is not the a-hole, but this might still be the end of the relationship. She's not trying to steal inheritance. She's trying to get help from someone who's been in her life for half or a third of her life. He may not have married her mum yet, but he's been dating her for 7 years. Here are a couple comments that sit on the fence a bit. They are not the a-hole for asking, but they are the a-hole for not accepting no as an answer and finding it unfair that he treats his own daughter differently than his not even stepdaughter. She wants to go there for school, not live there permanently. He's still not the jerk, but I don't think she or her mum are either. And here are a couple comments that disagree with OP and think he's the a-hole. Not the point. OP has the ability to help Kara out, a child whose life he's been in for 7 years, whose mother he is dating at little cost to himself. The girls living together as a roommate situation during school is hardly uncommon, and learning to deal and live with people who live different lifestyles and whatnot is a valuable skill. I have to go against the mob here and say you're the a-hole, OP. It's still your house, not your daughter's. You've admitted that the area is barely affordable for a middle-class family, let alone a student, and that neither your partner or her ex would be able to contribute enough financially to make finding secure housing feasible. Ultimately, it's your call to make. Your biological daughter would like, but certainly doesn't need, a whole-ass house to herself, whereas the girl who's been in your life for the past 7 years needs safe and affordable housing. Give in to your bio daughter's demands, and you'll be showing your partner exactly how much she and hers mean to you. Very little. This could be a relationship killer. Alright, let's jump straight to the update. I spoke to Emmy and her mum and let them know where I stood, and that was beside Emmy. But I also felt that Kara and her mum deserved a genuine conversation. The conversation was this past Friday. The talk started out okay. Obviously there were some emotions, but I started the conversation with telling everyone there would be no yelling and tears would not be used to influence anyone. After it was all said and we began, I just proposed the situation as, this is a second home that I own fully and outright. It will be Emmy's fully, legally and in name in a few years, but as of today it is mine. However, like the house, Emmy is mine and my responsibility. No one but us is entitled to it, and make no mistake, Emmy is indeed entitled to it. It may not be fair in your eyes, but it is what it is. Emmy, I can see why they may think it's selfish as the house can accommodate you both, but I will support whatever you want to do. This is not a discussion to change your mind, but to better understand it. It started pretty bluntly from Emmy and her mum saying they didn't understand why she didn't want her to live there, as this would dictate a huge part of her future. The answer was half expected, and the other half hard for everyone to swallow. Emmy said she didn't trust Kara to actually focus on school and not make the home into a party house. She point-blank asked Kara if she could actually accept not having guests over. Kara said something like, a few people 2 or 3 days a week wouldn't be a problem. The answer should have been yes. Emmy said she wouldn't feel safe with her bringing over strange men whenever she wanted, and her dad would want to visit, and she doesn't trust him at all. She said school was her main focus, and staying safe would be a worry if Kara was there. Kara and her mum got defensive, but I told them it didn't matter. She can't say she won't bring people over, and it tells me all I need to know, and my daughter's safety is paramount, and Kara's focuses were blurs. Socialising is fine, but perhaps I was wrong and it had gotten out of hand. I told my girlfriend that as her mother, she would have to address that, and that whatever the plan would be for Kara's schooling, had she not ever met me, would have to be her course of action. As for Emmy, after the conversation I told her she would have a roommate, as I felt it was important. She was okay with that, and asked if she could ask a friend. I told her yes, so all is good there. As everyone guessed, girlfriend is now ex-girlfriend. She asked me to stay somewhere else for a week while she found somewhere to stay. I reminded her that this was also my house, but she was free to leave whenever. She ended up going to stay with a co-worker, but something happened. She asked to come back, but I told her it wouldn't be wise. That's the update. Daughter is happy. I'm better than I thought I would be. Today's a new day. X will figure it out, and Kara has time to learn and grow. And now for the final update to this story. To make a very long story short, this was not the full conclusion that I thought it would be. I'm not super familiar with Reddit, and I thought that update was deleted or not posted by the moderators. Kara is now in jail. She was picked up in a stolen Kia by some friends, and they used the car to break into a pawn shop. I couldn't tell you what was stolen or how much was stolen, but some football cards were taken, and I guess they were worth more than the car and building damage. I understand people will say a lot about this, but I can honestly say she never did anything remotely like this. The worst I think I saw her do was break a dish on purpose when she was 13. My ex, well, she's living in a shelter now. She was not cheating on me, and I never thought she was. That was just people making leaps. Unfortunately, the woman she was living with asked her to join her and her husband for activities after moving in. She felt she had to do it for a place to live, and she regretted it. She told people at work and was terminated after refusing a transfer. My daughter and I are good, but mentally shook. Okay, so there you go, guys. That's the end of that one. What did you think? A pretty eventful ending, if you ask me. As for like the previous kind of problem with the house, I think Opie's definitely not the a-hole, but I can certainly see both sides to that argument pretty well. Though I feel like the fallout to it all was a bit more extreme than I expected. Either way, let me know what you folks think about this in the comment. Would you have done the same thing if you were in Opie's shoes? Let me know. Anyway, let's move on to another story. This one is also from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by Dice267990 and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for cancelling the birthday party I planned to throw for my wife after what she did? I, male 36, remarried after my late wife passed away. I have a son, 15. My current wife and I have been together for 2 years. She generally has a good relationship with my son, although they tend to have some disagreements from time to time. My son has background in arts that involve wood. He used to help his grandfather with his woodworking and learned how to make handmade wooden items and use them as gifts. I planned a dinner party for my wife's birthday at a prestigious restaurant. The day before her party, she was cleaning my son's room and saw what he got her for her birthday, and that was a wooden tree with mine, hers, and his name on it. She talked with him and told him while she thought it was a sweet gift, she asked that he don't bring it to the restaurant and give it to her there. Why? No idea. When my son told me this, I just had to call her out on it. She flat out said that she thought the gift looked ridiculous and she didn't want it to be seen in that prestigious restaurant and in front of her guests. I lost it on her and told her she should be ashamed of herself for saying this when my son was being sincere and thoughtful. She swore she wasn't ashamed nor embarrassed by his work and even said she'll take the gift, but she simply didn't want it to be seen there. I told her not to worry about it since I decided to cancel the whole thing. She went off at me for calling me unreasonable for outright cancelling her birthday over such a trivial thing. I refused to keep arguing, but she threw a fit about how I ruined her birthday and made her lose respect for me and my promises. My son kept the gift since she left the house 2 days ago, and her mum has been chewing me out for my decision and calling me a jerk for treating her daughter like this. It could be that it was not a big deal and I overreacted, but my son was feeling hurt by her request. I think the wife has overreacted in this regard. Like, totally reasonable for you to call her out on that. Like, she's very much materialistic, or at least she gives off that kind of vibe. And, for her to just straight out say that she's not embarrassed by it or anything just completely contradicts her point of having it there. And then not only that, but like leaving the house after you call her out on it and cancel the dinner, that's just ridiculous. Yeah, not the a-hole, the wife is. What do you guys think? Let me know. Alright, we're going to stay on the trend with partners' birthdays. This one was written by a throwaway account and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out during my fiance's birthday dinner over what my future mother-in-law said? Throwaway for privacy. I'll preface this by saying that I'm an introvert. Although I'm in my 30s and have 2 kids, I've always struggled with being social. I have to admit that it can have negative impacts, but it's part of my personality and I'm glad everyone around me respects that and understands. However, my future mother-in-law, whom I met after meeting my current fiancé, tends to make comments about me being awkward or overly shy. She always criticises me for it, and oftentimes she would bring it up in front of everyone and make me feel anxious. My fiancé's birthday was yesterday. I put lots of work and preparation in order to fit it in with the family and just be chill and normal. Everything was going well till we gathered at the dinner table. My future brother-in-law came to sit with us and pulled his chair too close to mine that our hips almost touched. I felt awkward. I got up and tried to pull my chair inches away from him. He didn't react, but his mum was watching me the whole time and looked at me and said, "Good God, you're so uptight. I bet you made your ex-husband put a sheet over you each conception," followed by a laugh. I was blown away completely. People actually laughed with her and I felt so upset. I quietly got up and took my stuff and walked out. My fiancé followed me outside saying I overreacted and ruined his birthday over a joke. I was so upset we got into a huge argument, then I insisted to go home. He came back hours later yelling about how I ruined his birthday and made a scene in front of his family. He said he was sick and tired of my uptightness and that I need to loosen up and stop acting childishly. His mum called and he's now refusing to speak to me unless I apologise to him and his mum for for storming out like that, since his mum was just giving her opinion in a funny way, and this is how she is. Male 32, cheating fiancé, female 31. Let me start from the beginning here. Yesterday, I met my fiancé at our wedding venue for our 4-month out meeting to finalise details. We drove to the venue separately because she was leaving straight from work. Towards the end of the meeting, she let me know her friend was dropping off her rental car and needed a ride home and asked if it would be okay. I said yes, thinking nothing of it, as it wasn't that far from our home and I know her friend well. I get home and try to get in touch with her for the next 3 hours. No answer. At approximately the 1:30 mark, I texted her friend and asked if she'd made it to her okay. I was very worried. My fiancé ends up coming home and says sorry, it took longer than expected. She hung out with her friend for a bit before leaving. Okay, no biggie, just let me know next time please. Her friend gets back to me a few minutes later and says, sorry I couldn't make it to the venue, I didn't see your fiancé tonight. I asked her why she would say this, and she said she didn't know, she can't control what her friend says, and walked outside. I'm sketched out AF by this point. I've never done this, but I looked at her phone records. Yes, I did, and don't regret it. I saw that when she went outside, she called her friend, that had texted me right after she went outside. I also saw an hour-long call with a number I didn't know on the way to the venue. I asked her what rental place they went to, and multiple other questions. She had quick answers, and they seemed legit. I thought maybe I'm crazy here, I need to chill and sleep on it. This morning, I asked her to please see the text from her friend asking her to pick her up, and I would apologise for questioning her for the previous night. She said no. I said when I caught up to you yesterday on the way to the venue, I saw you were on the phone. Who was that? She said, oh, that's the friend I picked up later on. That's when I knew for a fact she was lying. I said I looked at her phone records and knew that wasn't true. She then changed her story to, oh, I needed to meet up with a co-worker to discuss a patient. Who is the co-worker and why couldn't you discuss that over the phone? I need to show him the techniques in person. His name is Michael. Okay, I'm sketched out beyond belief at this point. We never lie to each other. I asked to see the text with Michael. She said she wouldn't let me see. I said why not if there's nothing to hide? Are you having an affair? Do you not want to be together anymore? She pauses and proceeds to tell me all the things that are wrong with me. I work too much. I don't spend enough time with her. I don't listen. I'm astonished at this point. All of this is news to me. I put 2 and 2 together at this point and know something sketchy is going on. I asked again to see the text. It took about a half hour of convincing to see these texts, and they were crazy, sexual in nature and talking a lot of crap about me. Also how she wanted to be with him and how they're essentially in love. She started this job 1.5 months ago. He is her co-worker. He is also 15 to 20 years older and divorced with multiple kids. I've been financially supporting her for the last few months as she got back on her feet and was working extra so she wouldn't have to pick up a part-time job. We own a house which we both live in with 3 dogs and a horse. Sorry for the novel, I'm beside myself right now. I did not see this coming. We were going to get married in 4 months. Any advice would help. Update. As an update, I was finally able to sit down with her tonight and go over this. Again, she came in trying to blame me for what she did, trying to justify the cheating and lying as a direct result of my lack of communication and listening. She said she wouldn't have had to start talking to this guy if I'd been listening better. I spend too much time in the office working and don't dedicate enough time to her. I tried to explain that I was putting in extra hours to try and support her and the family financially while she was struggling so she wouldn't have to get a part-time job. She said she would have rather gotten a part-time job, which makes no sense to me. She was under the impression that because this was short-lived, 1 week she said, and they only made out once, that we could move past this. When I brought up the text where she was trashing me and talking sexual with him, she deflected hard, and I got nowhere with that. I told her that I'm not the reason that this is happening. She went too far and should have communicated with me or thought about the implications first, that I can never trust her again, and this is all because of her actions. Whether she wants to try and justify this as my fault is up to her. At the end of this part, it got a bit calmer. I said, listen, we just really need to figure out the house we own jointly and the 3 dogs. We came to the conclusion that either I stay and buy her out, or we sell and get new places. The dogs, one of us will get 1, the other 2, to be decided. So that's where we left off tonight, and we'll continue to keep you all posted on progress. Curious what you would all do about the house. Financially, I can't support it alone, but it's nearly 3k square feet and 5 acres of land which was bought solely to have her horse. She's taking the horse when she leaves and boarding it at a barn. Geez, okay, yeah, so pretty standard cheat then break up kind of here. I guess it's a good thing that she didn't try and argue it too much and lie even more and try to manipulate you, but yeah, it's sad to hear things like this happen. Let's look at the comments. Jesus, I'm so sorry. Small consolation, I know, but better now than after the wedding. Better now than after potentially starting a family. Standard cheater victim blaming. Don't let her pin this on you. OP, you deserve better. Cancel all vendors, notify invited guests, lock down your credit, or shared finances. Are you sure a fair partner is divorced? He may be lying to your soon-to-be ex, or she may be lying to you. Either way, it sounds like she cheated down and screwed up royally. It sucks, but it's better to know now than 10 years down the road. I'm sorry you got blindsided like this, and I hope it gets better soon. First of all, implement the 180 and Grey Rock method. The financial support for her should stop immediately. You will need a lawyer to deal with the house and ask them how you can legally leverage the HR angle in your negotiations. She has shown her true colours and is acting horrible. That relationship will crash and burn, and she will then start begging to come back. Sending strength. Okay, let's jump to the update. Day 3. I was able to sit and have a 3-hour conversation with her tonight. We talked about our relationship and what led to what occurred. It started with her telling me what I did wrong in our relationship. Lack of communication, spending too much time working, and on my phone. I don't disagree with any of these things. My mindset behind working so much was support of the family. I run an e-commerce business on the side, and I'm a one-man customer service centre and deals happen 24 hours a day. I'm never not on the clock. I could have certainly been better about setting my phone aside and responding to people the next day. The lack of communication was on both ends, and a prime example of this is the fact that I was unaware she was unhappy with any of this. It was never communicated to me. She said she felt I would have gotten upset if she told me, but never gave me the chance to work on it. I'm not a perfect person by any means, and many times I do or say things that are misinterpreted by her as rude. An example of this is a week or two ago I was trying to help her with a budget with her financial problems, to try and set up a plan to get her on track. To note, I work in the financial industry and do this for clients all the time. She had mentioned that she owed me maybe $1,000 and she'd get that back to me next paycheck. I said something like, I think it's a little bit more than that, let's go through the transfers I've made to our joint account. It ended up being over $5,000. My purpose for doing this was not to make her feel bad, but to realise how much I've been contributing. She took this as me trying to humiliate her, was just trying to help, and maybe my timing was off. She told me I've been too focused on money lately, but I was only trying to make sure we were going to be okay. We still had quite a bit to pay for the wedding, and my budget mentality was an overload, trying to make sure we had enough. The fact that she keeps trying to justify what she did by attributing that as a direct correlation to my flaws really bothers me. She keeps telling me that she is surprised I would throw away 7 years of a relationship away like this. I keep having to remind her that I didn't throw it away. She did with her actions. She told me that I told too many people too quickly, and we could have resolved all of this between us. She also said that she wouldn't have had to talk to someone else if I was a better listener and communicator. I have finally determined the extent of the affair, which I actually believe based on the text that I read. They began talking 1 or 2 weeks before via text. I don't know if they had met up before outside of work, but this time around he had asked her to the park to play basketball and talk. She met up with him and they ended up making out. I truly believe it didn't go further than this, yet. But it would have in the near future, I am sure. She says he is not her boyfriend. She also took off tonight and I have no idea where she's at, assuming with him or a girlfriend. It is an awkward living situation, but I'm hoping this resolves in the near term. I do think she wants me to get back with her and try to repair that. I think that the main issue was a lack of communication that manifested for a long time. We got into a routine, lived our boring simple life, and meanwhile this problem was never discussed and grew over time. She acted out instead of talking to me, and also lied to my face and talked a lot of crap about me behind my back. She can be very sneaky, and I don't think I can fully trust her again. Obviously, this would be the easiest thing to do, but I don't think I would ever be truly happy. Understanding the root cause has helped me feel better. If nothing else, it will allow me to address my personality flaws and communication issues and see things from another perspective. I started hitting the gym today and will keep a routine going. I also plan on picking back up on studying for my CFP designation. I took the week off of work to focus on my mental health. Today, I called the wedding venue and officially cancelled the date. We were able to get some money back but lost a bit unless the date can be resold to another couple. Unlikely. I also spoke with her parents again to keep them apprised. They live far away and I'm sure are worried sick. I continue to let them know everything is fine and calm and they don't need to worry about their daughter. I did some research and with interest rates where they are today, I'll not be able to find a comparable house for the mortgage I pay for this. I can barely find an apartment for less nowadays. I think my best option is to try and buy out her share and have her find an apartment. She seems agreeable at this time. We'll have an appraiser out to assess value and see what half of the equity would be and if that's doable for me. My questions to you all are, does this change your mind at all about this situation? Am I handling this properly? If not, what should I be doing differently? Oh man, I feel like Opie's doing a pretty good job in this situation. But yeah, you can kind of understand the perspective of like, yeah, there were problems in the relationship, and yeah, the wife acted out instead of talking to him first, but it's a lot to go through if they only just kissed, going through a breakup and things like that. It's a lot to go through if they didn't actually get to a point where they're sleeping with each other. But yeah, Opie's right, it never is the same again after something like that. Anyway, yeah, as far as the house and stuff goes, I really have no recommendation there. I'd probably keep the house if I was him, or try to, but yeah, that's a financial problem that he needs to sort out. Anyway, let's look at some comments and we'll jump to our last update after. At this point, I would stop giving her the platform to tell you that her cheating is because of you. It's not. She chose to cheat. Instead of being an adult and having adult conversations in an adult relationship, she chose to cheat. The moment any of that crap escapes her lips, shut it down. She doesn't deserve to have your ear. She's hoping that if she says it enough, you'll start to believe it. Shut it down. Conversations are hallmarks of a relationship. You chose to cheat, it's over. Rinse, recycle, repeat as necessary. Personally, I'd be done with any conversing. I hope the house thing works out. Yeah, pretty spot on with that comment. Let's jump to the update. It's been nearly a month since this whole situation went down and I owe you all an update. Has been a very busy, emotional and eventful month. So I'm not going to lie, the few days after this happened to me, I was a pathetic mess, grovelling to get back with this cheating POS. It's embarrassing to admit, but it happened, and it was all part of the process of moving on. While in this vulnerable state, I tried everything I could to do things right and make things better, but nothing worked. I was actually told that she had to make a decision, me or him, and she did the right thing, choosing him. I think that's when I woke up and realised I'd let my self-worth go down the drain, and I needed to take a step back and really focus on me and what was best for me. It's hard after 7 years of doing everything for someone else to focus on your own needs, but that's exactly what I've been doing since. I moved our joint savings account to my individual checking account. I did the math of what was owed to me and transferred half of the balance back to the joint account for her to take. I've been working out every day since this happened. It makes me feel good to not only improve how I look, but helps me continue to think clearly. I've gone suit shopping, for a massage, out with friends and family. Not only was this relationship isolating of my friends and family, which should have been a huge red flag, but I never did anything for myself. Buying clothes is just not something I would do. I was always worried about providing for my significant other and animals. I've been seeing a therapist for the first time in my life on a weekly basis. It helps me talk things out in my decision making. It is something I'll probably continue to do after this situation resolves, just to continue to improve myself. Now for the bigger items. I'm still living in the house with the ex. She is sleeping in the guest bedroom, and we're at a point where the only communication is, "Did you feed the dogs?" I think she is a terrible person, and no matter what I say, in her mind, this is my fault. To accuse someone of being a bad communicator, and then using that as an excuse to then not communicate her feelings to me and cheat, is her being a hypocrite, and is an easy out in her delusional mind. I stopped bothering trying to reason with her because she is unreasonable. I've been keeping the ball rolling with listing the house for sale. I contacted an agent, had them come, and was happy with the proposed sale price. She then requests that I contact 2 other agents and get their opinions, one of which was recommended by her friend. Yes, I made all the calls, set up all the appointments, and met with these people. This is how the relationship always was, and even though it's not fair, I've been willing to do it all to get the hell out of there. After meeting with all 3, we ended up going with the first agent. Pictures were taken on Sunday and the house was listed for sale Sunday night. Open house next Saturday. already getting a lot of attention on the RE sites. She would be taking the horse to a barn somewhere to be decided. I had a conversation about the dogs and offered to take one or none. She said she'd take all three of them to keep them together. They are a happy bunch and I don't want to fight over taking one if that will break them up. It also selfishly allows me to pursue a clean start. Unexpectedly, I met someone about a week ago that I've been spending quite a lot of time with. I have no false expectations here, but I'm enjoying hanging out with her. She's been through a similar situation in the past and has been helping me through this. It's really eye-opening speaking with a kind, thoughtful and independent woman. It makes me realise what a narcissist my ex was. Completely self-centered, dependent and manipulative. I should have listened to those warnings from family and friends long ago. I definitely fell into the trap of being in a simple routine. I wasn't enjoying life. It was just an easy situation to be in. Nice house, lots of land, great animals, didn't want to rock the boat. So I just continued on. You don't really realise this until you take a step back and truly reflect. Some might say it was wasted time, but I'm really using this as a learning experience. I will not ignore red flags in the future. I will not fall into the simplicity trap. I will continue to maintain relationships with friends and family. I just want to end this with a huge shout out to everyone on here that commented on my original post. I posted on Reddit because I had no idea what to do. Those of you that took the time to try and help a complete stranger on Reddit are amazing. I read every single comment and they all helped me get to where I am now. I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my life, wherever it takes me. Thank you all, truly. Alrighty, so there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Good ending, all in all. It was a bit scary when he admitted that he wanted to go back to the girlfriend, but I'm glad that she kind of chose the affair partner over him, because he might not have made that decision himself, but now he seems so much happier for it, and that's just good to hear. Anyway, let me know what you think of it, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, our next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by Indie Archie Guy, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter what college she decided on? So today, my, 55 male, am returning with my daughter, 17 female, from a final college visit. We flew. Yesterday, after the visit, we were having lunch and she said she'd made up her mind. I asked which school. She said she's going to have fun with this and not tell us. I texted my wife and said she had a decision but she wasn't telling us. My wife's comment was we've spent a great deal of money with trips, airline fares, hotels, meals, etc. for all of this. We visited multiple schools last spring, and after she was accepted at 5, she narrowed them down to 3, which we've now visited. Today at the airport during the layover, she said she thinks it's fun she got on her nerves about this and doesn't plan on telling us until maybe the end of the week. I explained that I don't think that's going to fly, as I'm trying to plan on where I'm moving money around for the down payment, etc. We're paying for her undergrad, and maybe some grad school if not all of it. She says now I'm just guilting her and she doesn't appreciate it. I've explained I need to plan, and that the longer she waits, the housing queue becomes an issue. Technically she has until May 1st, but the majority of students get in the queue as soon as possible to be considered for the best housing. I get no response, and now I'm getting the silent treatment. Am I the a-hole for asking for this decision? I didn't threaten anything, but I don't think she understands the ramifications of this decision. I just don't understand why I'm the bad guy all of a sudden. She's definitely not the a-hole. I mean, it's your money she's working with. She seems ungrateful for that fact. Sounds like your daughter needs a bit of a reality check. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole, but I think this is a good opportunity for her to experience the consequences of her actions. Stop asking, stop complaining, and stop saying anything about college to her. If she gets crap accommodations or if there are any money problems, that's on her. Let her experience it. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Tell her unless she tells you otherwise. You're going to plan on having money available for the cheapest option on her list. If it turns out it wasn't her pick, too bad. Yeah, good idea I think. There's a life lesson to be gained here. Let's jump to the update. We left on what is most likely our final all-family spring break trip on Thursday. We got up to our departure city to spend the night before our flight the next morning. In the hotel room she got up and said she had a big announcement. Then she pulled t-shirts out and started whipping them out to each of us. The shirts were all from the selected school. Her mother and I each gave her huge hugs and congratulations of how proud we are of her. So, happy ending. I'd already said I wasn't trying to guilt her or make her feel bad about not telling us back when I originally posted. Yesterday, while waiting in the airport, we got her registered. I found out my niece is gay, but I don't know how to help her. My brother and I have been brought up in an extremely conservative and religious household. Our parents were Bible thumpers who punished us severely when we were kids. When I got into college, I managed to get away from them and managed to slowly work out years of conditioning. But my brother did not get out. He still lives near them and is bought into their ideology. My parents hated me when I told them I wasn't coming back. We managed to patch our relationship a bit, but it's still tenuous. My brother has a daughter whom I wasn't allowed to have a proper relationship with because he considers me a corrupting influence. I've only ever spoken to her when I visit my family once a year. Even though my brother is still religious and conservative, he isn't as controlling and strict as my parents were, so she was allowed to go to college despite the protests from my parents. She goes to college in a city near me, but she was forbidden from visiting me. A few days ago when I was in that city, I saw her kissing another woman in a cafe. I don't think she saw me. I was shocked when I saw that. My brother would disown her if he found out. I want to help her. She and I don't have a proper relationship, and I don't know what she thinks about me. My husband and I have good careers, so I'm willing to support her, even if my family kicks her out. I've managed to convince her to visit me this weekend. Should I tell her I know? How do I help and support her? Gee, personally, I'd have no idea how to approach this situation. Let's see what the comments think. Can you just reach out to her and tell her that you're here for her if she needs anything? You are both adults and can try to establish a familial bond. Just that will be a help to her. And somewhere along the line, just mention she's welcome in your home at any time. I wish I could think of something more. Honestly, I think you're a really good aunt. I would say definitely tell her that you know, but obviously ease your way into it, whilst you two both talk and get to know more about each other. But you should totally tell her, as 1, it'll put her mind at ease knowing that she has someone supporting her, and she won't be standing alone when and if she decides to come out. And 2, just so she has someone to talk to about these kinds of things, because obviously she can't go to her parents with the type of relationship she's in, so it'll be nice for her to talk to you about it, plus making the two of you closer, since both of you aren't really into your parents' ideologies. Let's jump to the update. I contacted a gay friend of mine and told her about my dilemma. She told me that she would help me and suggested that I should talk to my niece and my friend would join us when we went out in the evening. My niece visited me yesterday and she was apprehensive at first. We started talking and she became comfortable talking to me. She told me that my parents tried to poison her opinion of me when she was coming to college, but she didn't trust them. We had a really long conversation and caught up with each other. I subtly told her that she could tell me anything and could rely on me for anything. We went out in the evening and my friend brought her wife with her. We had a great time, and my niece finally opened up about her being a lesbian and living in the fear of the wrath of her parents. She was elated when I told her that I would support her whenever she decided to come out, and told her she could talk to me about anything. My friend told my niece that she could talk to her if she needed any advice any time. I'm so happy that I finally have a good relationship with my niece. She's going to visit me every week going forward. Thank you to the people who gave me advice. Oh, what a great update, and a really good way for OP to go about it, by inviting her friend and things like that. Good to see that the niece is finally getting comfortable in her own skin. Let's jump to the next update. Update. My conservative brother found out my niece is gay and told her she was dead to him. How do I help her? My niece and I have a great relationship now after she came out to me. She is a very fun and bubbly person and I love her. She has a good relationship with her out and proud girlfriend, who was also a great person. They visit us almost every weekend and we have a great time. Her girlfriend told me that my niece is a lot happier after we reconnected. My niece went back home for the holidays last year and I visited them on Christmas. We tried to act like before, but my niece told me that my brother asked her if she was visiting me. She denied it, but we decided to keep our distance for some weeks. There wasn't any more probing from my family, so we thought things calmed down. Last week, my brother suddenly barged into her dorm unannounced and caught her with her girlfriend. He started shouting and causing a ruckus. Her girlfriend called me immediately. I rushed and got there in less than an hour. By the time I got there, my niece was sobbing and my brother was still berating her. When he saw me, he started screaming at me. He called me names and told me that I had corrupted and destroyed his daughter. I brought the management with me and he told my niece that she was dead to him while he was being escorted outside. I took my niece and her girlfriend back home with me. My parents phoned me and called me demon spawn and said that they wanted to never see me again. My niece was devastated. She was sobbing all day. Her girlfriend and I tried to console her, but she didn't get better. She called her father the next day, but he told her that he didn't want a sinner in his family. I stayed with her as much as I could and managed to stop her crying. She hasn't gone back to college and hasn't been eating properly since then. She looks sad all day and hasn't spoken to anyone except her girlfriend and me. She refuses to get out of her room. Seeing her like that is eating at me. How do I help her feel better? Oh no, looks like the brother found out. Let's see what the comments think. She'll need therapy and the support of a welcoming LGBTQ community. And even then it's going to be a wound that never fully heals. You being there for her as an accepting family member is going to carry a lot of weight, so full credit to you for making yourself a lifeline. In regards to the blowback you're receiving from your brother and family, don't disregard the impact this is going to have on you as well. You're older and might feel you're better positioned to weather it, and there's some truth to that. But make sure you're looking into ways to make yourself feel better, as well as her. You're probably both going to need therapy for this. Just keep being there for her. Reinforce that none of this is her fault. Be accepting, be validating. Try and gradually coax her out and into spaces and amongst people who are equally accepting and validating. She is going to need to slowly reconstruct her identity around different pillars than the ones she grew up with, and you and her girlfriend cannot remain all that she has. Hey OP, I agree with the other commenters when they mention therapy. That kind of incredibly harsh rejection from one's parents is crushing, and she'll need to learn that her value as a human being does not stem from their approval. In the meantime, I wouldn't push her, but try and get her to come out and hang out with you every so often. Bonus points if you can get her to nibble on something. If you know of anything comforting she likes, such as soft blankets, books, video games, certain scents, stuffed animals, etc., I would maybe try to get her that thing and make her feel safe. Make sure to love on her and let her know that she is loved by you and your family and her girlfriend and friends. A lovely quote that seems to fit this situation. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Bring as much light and joy as possible to her during this time. Let her grieve and try to make her laugh. It will help. 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for his immediate family, he has denied his faith and is worse than a non-believer. Tell your brother to stop being a prick and to read his frickin' Bible. Alright, let's jump to the final update for this story. After I made my previous post, I asked my therapist for help, and she recommended a friend of hers and also helped me get an appointment the next day. My niece, whom I'll call Jenny, did not want to talk to the therapist, but her girlfriend and I managed to convince her to give it a try. Jenny looked a little better after the session. She also had her first proper meal in a week that day. I invited my lesbian friend, who Jenny looked up to our home the next day. She and Jenny talked, and we decided to go to the beach. We relaxed and had fun. A couple of Jenny's close friends visited her after that, and she cheered up a bit. I also spoke to the college, as some of you suggested, and they were happy to let Jenny skip this semester if she wanted to. But as she was getting better, my sister-in-law called me. She refused to talk to me and only wanted to talk to Jenny. She told Jenny that she managed to calm my brother down and they would forgive her if she came back, stopped going to college, and got married, and that Jenny might not get another chance to atone to be with her parents. I was surprised when Jenny said no, and told her that they'd need to accept her the way she was. Her mother became furious and told her that they wouldn't pay for her college and she should never come back until she wanted to repent. I told Jenny that she could live with me as long as she wanted and that I would pay for her college happily. Jenny was very happy that I was going to support her and told me that I was the reason she got the courage to tell no to her mother. I'm so happy that I have a good relationship with my incredible niece after all these years. I hope I'm capable of providing all the help she needs. I want to thank all the people who gave me advice on my previous. All of this is new to me, and I'm very grateful for your advice. Some of you suggested looking for a friendly church, but Jenny told me that churches had no significance for her. Alright guys, so that's the end of that one. All in all, pretty good ending. It's a shame about the parents, but it looks like OP is going to be a good substitute for OP here. And I'm glad she stood up to her mum like that. Like, go home and repent. Like, did they honestly think she was going to say yes to that? Anyway, let me know what you folks think in the comments, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user CatCatYeah, I don't know, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for stealing my cat? So I, 21 female, have a beautiful brown cat, Midge. She's still a baby and is 10 months old. I found her outside of my work when she was about 2 to 3 months old and immediately fell in love with her. We've had the best time together, and her being my first pet since moving out makes me even happier. My cousin Tanya, 15 female, visits me a lot since we live in the same city, and I enjoy having her. She also really likes cats, but since her father is allergic, they don't have any at home. She really loves coming over to see Midge, and I'm glad to be able to provide her with Midge's presence. School recently started, and before I go back to full-time student, I've been having to work almost 45 hours a week to afford my lifestyle for the next couple months. Since I was busy, I let her have the responsibility of taking care of Midge, such as feeding her, cleaning her little box, etc. It was going really well, and I didn't have the chance to take her home, since I was going to be at work. I gave her my spare key to lock up, and scheduled an Uber to take her to her house. When I came home 8 hours later, Midge was gone. I called Tanya, and she swore Midge was home when she left, but after a couple hours my brother called asking when I gave Midge to Tanya. I was confused, and he sent me a screenshot of Tanya kissing Midge on her Instagram story. I knew then she blocked me from being able to see it, and was shocked she would do this to me, as well as lie. I had a spare key to their house, and went right over and took Midge back when they weren't home. When I got home, Tanya called screaming at me over the phone, telling me I broke into their house and stole her property. I laughed and asked how Midge was hers. She told me since she took care of her, she deserved her since I wasn't home, and she had to save Midge. Her parents were also pretty upset, since I did go into their home without permission, and told me I didn't deserve Midge from what Tanya told them. They told me they decided my uncle would take allergy medication for Midge, and I needed to give her back. Of course, I said no. Tanya ended up calling my mum, lying to her that I abused Midge. My mum called angry, telling me how I could do this to Midge, and if I don't give her to Tanya and her family, she will disown me. Tanya texted me this weekend that if I apologise, she might forgive me. Her parents have been texting me all weekend they'll press charges since I did go into their home, and will take Midge then. I don't know what to do. I love Midge so much, and my mum gave my aunt and uncle permission to go to my apartment and take her. I know this because Tanya texted me this, assuming to scare me. I am. I'm so scared one of these days I'm going to come home and Midge is going to be gone again. My brother and dad think I'm a jerk since I did go into their home without permission and acting out without trying to solve it maturely. So, am I the jerk for stealing my cat? I mean, this is a pretty obvious not the a-hole, right? I mean, the niece stole the cat and then lied to her family about the way Opie treated it. Like, obviously not the a-hole. It's just how's she going to get out of this situation now? Her whole family thinks she's cruel. Anyway, let's check out the comments. Not the a-hole. Change your locks. If they want to press charges against you for retrieving your property, in the eyes of the law, a cat is property, then they'll have to admit that your cousin stole from you in the first place. I would just block and ignore all of these people. Not the a-hole. I mean, Tanya stole your cat, clearly, then lied about it. As far as the spare key, I mean, Tanya abused her access to steal your cat. Clearly she didn't think that through. Luckily you had the key or this would have dragged out for a long time. Your family is a hot mess. Your mum has no business giving your aunt and uncle any permission regarding your property, and their position is ridiculous. You should absolutely get some webcams if you can't get the locks changed. Then you need to really send a really firm letter or email to your family, laying out the facts and making your position clear, so that it's documented. Not the a-hole. I do want to say that in my experience, this is a one-off experience and anecdotal at best. If you were given a key, then cops won't do much about you trespassing or breaking in. Change your locks as soon as humanly possible. Ask your landlord how he wants it done. He does it or you do. Get a security camera if possible. Do you have proof of ownership of Midge, with a licensing, vet bills, etc.? You'll absolutely need that if any legal precedence comes up. Also, keep any and all messages involving the cat. Also, go ahead and file a report about the theft of your cat, the fact you retrieved said animal, and the threats by these people to try to steal the cat again. That way, if she goes missing again, you have documentation and can file charges. I'd also let the family know that any further attempts to remove the cat from you will result in charges being pressed. Yeah, these comments make a lot of sense. Let's jump to the update. I took a lot of people's advice and got Midge microchipped yesterday. As well as that, I had a conversation with my mum that we resolved together. My landlord still refused to change my locks. Despite all this, this morning Midge was taken. I called my aunt and uncle and they just laughed and told me, "Try, we can hire a good lawyer." I called the police and explained the situation, showing proof I had ownership of Midge. When we went to my relative's house, police asked for her back, but of course they refused. What made me even angrier was my cousin inside the house, door open, holding Midge with a crap-eating grin. Even though I had all this evidence, my relative slammed the door demanding a warrant. Police suggested I press charges and take it to small claims court. I am, but they couldn't do anything right there. Going home without Midge was so upsetting. I had to pull over because I started crying. I contacted an attorney, and my cousin keeps posting photos of Midge on her Instagram. I took the situation to the family group chat in anger, and good news at least, everyone hates them now. My grandmother wrote my uncle and his family off the will, and of course they're calling me, threatening me with Midge, and they'll make sure I go to jail for all of this. I'm fairly confident in myself, but I would be lying if I wasn't more concerned with Midge. I just want my baby back, and I've been crying all day. Screw you, Tanya. Opie then gives a second update in the comments. Hi everyone. I'll be honest, I forgot about this post for a bit after everything. I just want to also say thank you to those specific people, you know who you are, who reached out to me to help with finances as attorneys are expensive, and I'm only a student. But yes, I just want to say, Midge is home. Small claims court came around, and my attorney was very confident and helped me out so much. She was very helpful and knew from the start we would win. I provided the judge everything. Yes, everything you guys commented as proof I own her. Photos of her as a baby, proof I've paid for all vet bills since she was a baby, and proof I had Midge chipped. My landlord also helped, although a lot of people were upset with him and telling me to move out. He was remorseful that his decision had consequences. I've forgiven him as his apology came with security footage of my aunt and uncle going into my apartment and taking Midge. We have been no contact since the case. They've been silent, most likely embarrassed. To end this on a good note, I wish I could have taken a picture of Tanya's face when she handed Midge back to me. Thank you everyone for listening to my story and coming back for updates. Oh well, what a good ending. Opie got her cat back, and the family seems to have turned onto Opie's side, which is good. Glad that there's still justice in this world. Alright, let's move to our last story for today. Okay, this story was posted on the same subreddit. It was written by user thisnet3802, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my boyfriend that I speak his language? My boyfriend, Jake, male 29, and I, female 27, have been seeing each other for a few months now. Dave is Mexican-American, but he's currently working in Berlin, where I'm from. I've heard him speak Spanish on the phone many times, and inquired about this, but he's never asked me if I speak it, and it just felt weird to mention it when he doesn't seem to care enough to ask if I spoke any other languages, apart from German and English. Because of that, he's never really found out I speak Spanish, despite me quite literally watching a telenovela before bed quite a few times. It kind of stings, but it is what it is. I never eavesdropped on his conversations though. His friend from the US was visiting him, and I was meant to be joining them for dinner. When I did, they were speaking in Spanish, and his friend asked, in Spanish, if I speak it, or should they switch to English only. My boyfriend said, again in Spanish, nah, she's a gringa, she doesn't speak it. Which kind of annoyed me because he never even asked. I replied to his friend, in Spanish, that I do in fact speak it. Jake got angry and red. He didn't say anything in front of his friend, but on the way home, after dropping his friend off at the hotel, he started shouting how I humiliated him and that I'm a jerk for hiding it. I told him it's best if he went to his flat, and we would talk when he calms down. He hasn't changed his mind, and still thinks I'm an a-hole and I should apologize. I told my friends and they're split on it, and I'm not sure anymore. Am I the jerk for not telling him? Alright guys, what do you think? Is Opie the a-hole or not? Honestly, Opie watched a Spanish television show right in front of him, and he didn't bother to ask if she understood it. Seems a bit weird to me. Yeah, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole here. He seems very unobservant, and that's not really anything you want in a relationship. Didn't know my boyfriend was trans. How to approach sex. Italian is my first language and my English isn't very good. Sorry for any mistakes. Hi, My boyfriend, 19 male, and I, 18 female, have been dating for just under a year and met through family members at an event just a couple weeks before we started dating. Obviously, because we started dating quite close to when we initially met, we didn't know a whole lot about each other, and we both said we wanted to get to a place where we're both close enough emotionally before we do anything sexual. So, our sexual interactions have mostly just stopped at making out and some fondling. About a month ago, he noticed that I was starting to get a bit more touchy and clingy, and I admitted that I felt comfortable attempting having sex, and he agreed on his part too. However, for the past month, each time I try and bring it up, it's quite quickly shut down, and if we ever get heated, then I'm normally the one who takes my clothes off first, and then he'll want to stop before we end up taking his off. I just chalked it up to performance anxiety, so I tried to not push it all because everyone goes at their own pace. I really like him, so I didn't want him to feel pressured at all. I went over to his house last night and we were making out, but whilst kissing, he got upset and started crying. I got a bit scared and asked him what was wrong, or if something had happened, and he apologised for acting weird the past month. That's when he told me he was trans, female to male, and was scared that I would reject him. We started having a conversation about it, and that's when he told me he still had a vagina and hadn't gotten bottom surgery. I was kinda shocked and asked if he was considering it, and he didn't say anything. The problem is that I'm a straight woman and haven't been attracted to girls or vaginas ever. Genital preference, I suppose. But now I'm a bit confused. I'm okay with waiting if he does want bottom surgery. However, what if he doesn't? I'm not an overly sexual person, but I don't know how a relationship like that will turn out. And even if he does have bottom surgery, neither of us will know how it will pan out. When he told me, I said it was okay and would try having a go having sex with him like this, but I got uncomfortable quite early on and begged him to stop. I left and we haven't spoken since. I obviously care about him and want him to feel comfortable and accept him for who he is, but I don't know how to approach this situation. Should we push having sex to the side altogether? Should we try like this again? Or wait if there's a possibility of him having bottom surgery? How should we approach sex in the future? Ooh, this is a tricky one. I got no idea how to answer this. Let's go to the comments. You are 100% allowed your particular sexual expression, including genital preference. Your boyfriend should have been honest a year ago. You will not be at fault if you wanted out of the relationship. If you want to stay, there are strap-ons that could be suitable. This is OP in response to comments about how the boyfriend must have been scared to come out, and bottom surgery is risky. Thank you for this. I'm very aware that the trans community faces a lot of backlash when coming out, and even more so when attempting to look for potential partners. I'm trying to keep this in mind whilst navigating the relationship, because I think to have kept it to himself for this long, he was probably scared of my reaction and if we'd break up, etc. We will most likely have a conversation about the bottom surgery soon, as I'm not quite sure if this is something that is even on the table, because of the medical risks, etc. And he didn't even seem too keen on it in the first place. Plus, I don't want to pressure him. But looking at the comments, I think strap-ons, like you said, are probably the way to go, lol. Yeah, that's about the only advice I'd be able to give. There's plenty of toys and things like that can help you with your sex life. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Hello everyone. I wanted to start off by saying that I got quite a few messages asking how I was coping, and if everything was okay, etc. And they were all so lovely, thank you. It was super nice to talk to a bunch of you guys and discuss my emotions with you all. When I first uploaded, I will say however I was initially surprised by the amount of people who were telling me to break up and saying I was misled, etc. And to a certain degree I understand and think those people are correct. I'll be honest, the fact that I was lied to for so long didn't even cross my mind as being a hurtful or mean thing. My immediate reaction was to empathise with him and his situation, and I think I had a hard time doing that while recognising, simultaneously, that it was okay for me to be hurt by his actions and decisions. I think to a certain degree, I underestimated the emotional impact it would have on myself as an individual. I think I don't really know how to come to terms with the fact that I was lied to for so long, and this is my first relationship and sexual encounter ever, and I'm having a hard time attempting or figuring out what I want for myself. Although I do believe that his fear to come out was justified, and his identity as a trans man should be protected, I don't really want to use it to excuse or negate the fact that I may be feeling hurt or betrayed, especially as it was my first time. I think it may take a while to build up the trust and respect I initially had. To the people in the comments saying that lying about something this big, lying in a mission, or the fact that the foundation of our relationship had lies within it, I think you're justified. I would prefer to not push it to the side and think that all is well and good now because I'm still feeling hurt and slightly manipulated, especially as it could mean that there are lies in other areas of our relationship. But to the others in my comment section saying that him coming out is a big deal and the fact that he may have been scared to do so as a trans individual, I think you are justified also. With some of the rights of the LGBTQ+ a bit up in the air at the moment in Italy, I think his fear to come out was justified, and I really empathise with him in this aspect. I've never had to come out or expose myself like that to anyone before, and even if I did, my family members and parents are very liberal in this aspect, so I couldn't even wrap my head around any of the fears he must have had regarding this. I talked to my boyfriend, and for now we have agreed that bottom surgery isn't likely to happen. We scrolled a bit through subreddits and a few of the comments and agreed that it is likely that it may be too dangerous health-wise. However, thank you for everything. A lot of people who replied who may not have known, but you all gave me quite a lot of more confidence to be clearer to my boyfriend on what exactly I wanted sex-wise, and put up clear boundaries of what I was and was not comfortable with. As I said in the previous post, we tried having F4F sex, but I got uncomfortable. I told him that it would not be likely that we will do this again. I was quite happy I stood up for myself and was able to create boundaries. This is also both of our first relationships and we are both virgins, so please understand that I'm pretty sure my boyfriend was likely to be scared to come out. Thank you for people trying to give me perspective and saying that I'm still young and trying to figure stuff out. I am, but so is my boyfriend. I don't think what he did was malicious. This was his first time also. But I do wish he came to me sooner, as I have been wondering if there was something I must have done to distrust me or not want to inform me about being trans. I am a strong ally of the LGBTQ+ community, and even though I am cis and straight, my heart does go out to all the trans people and children who are struggling with their identities and their place in the world. Please remember that someone will love and accept you for who you are, and do the best to protect yourselves. For our relationship moving forward, we have decided to take a bit of a break, basically get some space, explore our options, and not be so tied down by trying to force something, whilst also experimenting on the side. I guess kind of like FWB? I don't know, haha. I think the important thing is to be patient, and to not attempt something like that might actually scar us in the long run. We have decided to try strap-ons and had some fun Googling a bunch. We'll probably go up to Milan during the week and just look around any adult shops, as the LGBTQ scene is a bit more prominent than in our province. However, if the relationship doesn't work out, then I think I'll be happy that I at least gave it a go, and I stayed true to my values and morals, as this is likely to be someone I admire and love, regardless of if we're able to rebuild the relationship. Neither of us are trying to pressure ourselves into the relationship, and if I find someone I believe I suit better and have better sexual chemistry with, I will bring it forth. I saw a few comments about sexual trauma on his part, which could be the reason for his omission. This is a sensitive topic, and is something I tried to bring up lightly to him, if any bad sexual experiences had led him to be this way with me. He answered no, and from what I know we are both virgins and this is our first sexual experience, so there hasn't been anyone else significant in our lives. Also, for children, I've never really wanted kids, just for a bunch of personal reasons, and my insane fear of childbirth, haha. So I doubt I'd want kids regardless of if my boyfriend was transgender or not. Anyways, thank you guys for reading, and if you have any questions, please message or chat me, or we can discuss in the thread and I'll try to get back to everyone. Alrighty guys, let me know what you think about that one in the comment. It was a bit of a word vomit from OP there towards the end, but yeah, pretty tricky situation to kind of wrap your head around. Let me know what you guys would do if you were in OP's shoes. Would that be a deal breaker for you, or would you try and work through it? Let me know. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted by user Jazzy Finn, and it's titled, "My boyfriend is getting too comfortable." Me and my boyfriend have been together for almost 3 years, and living together for almost 2. I'm at university and work as a manager, and he has a full-time job at around 30 to 40 hours a week. At the start, it was your stereotypical happy and progressive relationship. He'd get me flowers, make me coffee in the mornings, I'd cook his favourite meals if he had a bad day, and we would go on dates. Our friends used us as a template for the perfect relationship since we knew how to communicate, and anything that almost became a fight was resolved within the day. We were both on the exact same wavelength with everything. In the past year, it's become really difficult to have good communication. I've kept doing what we've always done and brought up anything bothering me and how we can resolve it. But he started making empty promises. For example, my university semester started and I got a promotion at work. So I asked him if we could shuffle the house chores a bit, since I was doing way more hours. He said, yeah, of course, and did the normal hug and kiss, but nothing changed. If I bring it up again, he just brushes it off as, yeah, I'll do it later. But he doesn't. I thought he might have been struggling with something that he didn't want to tell me about. So I gave him more leeway and just asked for a little bit of help here and there. So I would make dinner and just ask that he unloads the dishwasher afterwards, but he would do the same thing. Agree, but pretend I hadn't asked. The final straw for me was a couple days ago. We were getting a bunch of furniture moved to our house, and my parents were helping us at 10 a.m. I told my boyfriend this, and he said that's completely fine, but he's already agreed to go clubbing with our friends. I said that's fine, as long as he helps me clear out the living room for the new furniture before he leaves. He says that his friends want to have a house party until 6, and I say we can't be out that late, but we can stay out until 3. He says that's fine. I hadn't been on a night out in ages, so they invited me along. I just got a new dress and I was really excited to go out. I got my dress and makeup ready and told my boyfriend that we had to start moving furniture now if it was going to be ready in the morning. He said sure, give him a minute to finish a fight in his video game. I started moving things and, not gonna lie, I really struggled with the heavy stuff, so I reminded him to help me move things. He tells me to wait. 2 hours go by with me struggling to lift couches, and he jumps into the room dressed up and ready to leave. He quickly tells me that he's ordered a taxi and is leaving soon. I ask what about moving the furniture? He just shrugs. I say that I can't go on a night out without moving this stuff first. He just brushes it off. I remind him to at least be back by 4 a.m. so that he won't be super hungover while helping in the morning. Long story short, I had to stay home and move the furniture so we would have the room in the morning. He still went out without me. I was done by about 1 a.m. and woke up at about 7 and he still wasn't home. He answered and told me he was at the house party, but he'll be home soon. He got home exactly 10 minutes before my parents arrived. In short, he promised he would be home by 3, but came home at 10 a.m, made me stay home alone to sort the furniture, and, when the furniture was finally in the house, he refused to help me move any of it again. This happens constantly. If he promises to make dinner, I end up making myself a sandwich at midnight because he didn't do it. If he promises to wash our clothes, he only washes clothes that he is going to wear the next day. He promises to buy me flowers again, but it's been almost a year since he has. I brought this up to him yesterday night, saying that I didn't feel loved and felt used since I do everything. He again had the conversation saying he knows he made mistakes and he'll do anything to help me feel loved. I asked one thing, help me in the morning with chores. He promised. Guess what happened? I, of course, ended up doing all of them myself. I'm getting so fed up of mothering him and forgiving him continuously, and this is the first time in 3 years I've actually thought about leaving. I know that I won't because I really do love him and his family, but nothing I do can get through to him. Okay, for a little context, both of these people are 21, which is still very young. In my mind, yeah, I reckon this is bad news for any relationship, but they're both still so young. Like, end it now and move on with your life. This is not sustainable. Anyway, let's look at some of the comments. Sounds like he wants to grow up without the growing up part. You can't have a relationship and expect the other person to do it all, and then want to have fun too. He needs to do his chores before going to have fun. Tell him to stop making excuses and to take more accountability when it comes to helping out around the house. Your plate's just as full. He can definitely help out, especially if he wants to go clubbing. Sounds like the reality of your relationship is finally hitting and the love goggles are off. You're right, he's gotten really comfy because as it stands, it sounds like he can just get away with anything and you'll just let it go. He's not held accountable, mostly because when you tell him he can just promise you change and surprise. No change. Even in your post, you don't want to leave him, so why do you think he'll change if there's no risk of you leaving? It's not that it's not getting through to him, it's that he's not being held accountable. So he can do something like ignore you, or quite frankly, stick you with stuff like moving all the furniture while he goes to have fun, and he knows you'll still be there when he gets back. You are being taken advantage of 100%. You can't fix the changes you need to make because they depend on him. You need to start holding him accountable. Show him that he can and will lose you. See how quickly he changes. And hopefully that's the kick in the butt he needs to stop doing this to you. It will crumble, and things will revert if you always forgive him and do not hold him accountable. You're 21. You're not married to this guy. You don't have kids. You don't have property together. Right now you can make a clean break without losing anything but him. Remember that. He shows a clear lack of respect for your time and energy. If he had done this 2 years ago, would you still feel like you wanted to stay? If someone loves you and respects you, they will show that through their actions. He is showing you that he loves what you do for him, but has zero respect for you as a partner. Honestly, if I were in your shoes, I would make it clear that you have no obligation to stay, but you stay because you love him. Lay out exactly what is going wrong, and come up with a solid solution you both agree on. If he fails again, leave. Someone who refuses to make a change for you when you've repeatedly expressed how it makes you feel does not respect you. Good luck, OP. Yeah, that's absolutely it. Anyway, on to the update. 2 months later. A lot has happened since this post. I took the words and advice of the comments, and I gave him an ultimatum. He needs to fix the problems in the original post or I'd leave. I sat him down and explained that he's treating me like his mother, not his partner. So, I'd set up a bed in my office and sleep in a different room until he proved he didn't need me to take care of him at a whim. He was super shocked that I'd hit him with this out of nowhere, ignoring that I'd been asking for help for months. I had to drag one of the spare beds up the stairs and set up the room, all while he was sitting, refusing to help me. Fine, nothing I'm not used to. I realised once the office was set up how happy it made me to have my own space without needing to fix all of his problems, and he did not take that happiness well. I noticed him getting snarky and aggressive whenever he saw how much I was enjoying my holiday from catering to him, and just overall being weird, but still not really doing his own stuff. He'd just leave mugs and plates to get mouldy in his room, or leave stuff everywhere in the living room. I noticed that he started to nitpick everything I did, and it seemed like he was trying to find something, anything, to make me feel bad about, to make his faults less bad, I guess. He complained about my friend group on Discord because he didn't like that I had friends that weren't through him, even though I invited him to come on with us, introduced him, and he had a good time. He also complained that I wasn't giving him enough attention, or helping enough. Yeah, welcome to my hellhole, pal. But everything he tried to fault me for was quickly shot down. Of course I'm friends with them. They haven't done anything wrong, and I've invited you to join all the time. And, of course I'm not helping you. That's the point. Crap hit the fan after only 2 days of me staying in the office. My Discord group had decided to get drunk and play Cards Against Humanity. I highly recommend this, by the way. And I told my partner this. He just said, okay, and so I went upstairs. Once I was already pretty tipsy, I got a message asking me to come downstairs. I told my Discord to pause the game and give me 5 minutes. When I went downstairs, he looked at me with the scariest face and said, "Do you want to tell me anything, huh?" Holding my old phone. In our entire relationship, I've never done anything to be disloyal or anything, so I had no clue what he meant. I asked, still giggling from the drink, "Tell you what." I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said that he knew, and I should admit it to him now, because he had the evidence. I still had no clue, so I told him this, still stumbling a bit, and asked to see the evidence. He proceeds to go through my old phone's photos until he reaches over 4 years ago, well before we were dating by the way, and shows me a picture of my rapist. Not a naughty picture or anything, literally a selfie. He showed me this smugly and proceeded to tell me that I cheated on him with the guy who raped me before we were even together. Ladies and gentlemen, they say it's impossible to fall out of love instantly, but that's been proven false. I gave him one last chance to take it back and asked, "Are you jealous of him?" And he confirmed that yes, he wished he had done it first. In his defense, I genuinely think he worded this badly and didn't mean that he wished he had sexually assaulted me. But holy hell, my drunk brain did not like that one. I don't even remember what I properly said, but I broke up with him on the spot. I explained I'm staying in the office until I find a flat, and he is to not talk to me at all. He realised that him trying to guilt me backfired, and he started crying. I just went upstairs, put my headset on, and said, "Guess who's single?" Long story short, my Discord collectively decided to keep me on a video call constantly because they had a bad feeling about me still living in the same house. And God were they right. He left to stay with his mum, who's down the road, but decided to try to kick the door down at midnight. Why? Everyone in the Discord was flirting with me, mostly jokes, and this dude took my old phone and logged into everything to find more stuff to guilt me on. I had to phone my parents to pick me up because he'd gotten in and was throwing crap around. accusing me of cheating again. I'm now staying with my parents until I find a flat, and I'm lucky to have my Discord friends because if they hadn't witnessed this freak out on camera, I don't think anyone would have believed me. Love you guys. I am breaking up with my boyfriend over milk. English is not my first language. I live with my boyfriend and we've had conflicts now for over 5 months because of milk. Approximately 6 months ago, I found out I'm lactose intolerant and it made me change all my diet to avoid stomachache and nausea, in which is working pretty well. I do not expect my boyfriend to change his diet to accustom me, so we've been buying our own groceries to not impact one another. In my country, plant-based milk and lactose-free products are much more expensive, but since I love my cheese and milk, I buy it anyway. The problem is that my partner eats it all when I'm not home, and doesn't replace it by buying more. I don't mind sharing food, but it's really disrespectful of him to not leave some for me. He knows lactose is something my stomach can't handle, but he still eats and drinks my products when I'm not around. It made us fight a lot of the time, and it's been going on for 5 months until now. This morning, seeing less than 100 ml of my almond milk made me go absolutely crazy, due to the fact that I was more than 10 hours awake after my shift in the hospital and just wanted some latte. He keeps saying it's not a big deal, but the fact that he chooses to consume my stuff and refuses to admit his mistakes makes it unbearable. How my boyfriend treats me is absolutely outrageous, and it made me see that he doesn't treat me as an equal due to how much disrespect I've been enduring. I can't take it anymore. Edit 1. I bought a plane ticket to return to my parents' home. My boyfriend, soon to be ex, thinks we are okay since I've been quiet after he yelled at me, saying I was overreacting. I sent a message to my boss and she said it's fine for me to work online. Edit 2. I was thinking about writing a letter to my boyfriend since this was my first relationship. Dear boyfriend, I am leaving a 5-year relationship in which was full of red flags, whom I couldn't see due to my rose-tinted glasses. My favourite nickname that you gave me was Doll, but now it makes me want to puke. The naive old me thought it was because you loved my dark hair and my love for pink, but now looking back, maybe it was because how dumb I looked, just to please you by obeying every single word like a spell. I know deep in my heart you will blame me for the breakup, or maybe the milk. None of these were the issue. You are the problem. Every time you disrespected me by consuming my almond milk was like someone slowly plucking petals, because every single act of disregard made my love for you die. Honestly, this fate could have been prevented. We know where we are in each other's hearts. The only mistake was making you the priority when I clearly wasn't. Thank you for being my first, but unfortunately you won't be my last. Goodbye. Holy, bit of a mic drop from OP there. Let's jump straight to the update. Yesterday was a bit chaotic, so I didn't have the chance to log on Reddit. While my ex was at college, me and my 4 friends packed everything I bought over the years. The only thing I left behind was our engagement ring, photos, and the house keys. I left the heavy and big stuff at my friend's house, and she'll be shipping it to my parents' home. God bless her. I arrived during the night at my home city, and my phone wasn't even on. So for several hours, peace was there for me. No more screaming, no more disrespect, and no more stolen milk. Today, when I finally turned on my phone, there were more than 74 calls from him. The messages were between begging me to come home and talk it out, to threatening to expose my nudes, tell everyone about my ADHD, find me and make me regret. I'm quite afraid of it, so I showed my parents these texts. We were planning to spend several days at our beach home in another state, until it's safe and get a police report. I don't know what will happen after I file a report, since in our country, Brazil, the police are a failure. Oh gee, sounds like the ex could get dangerous in a second. Let's go to the next update. Hi, it's me again, and today I'm going to give you all some bad news. In my last update, I told you all about travelling to my beach house in Bahia, and it saved my life. Here, it's awesome. I miss being sun-kissed and having so much fun at the beach. As I mentioned before, travelling to my family's beach house was what kept my life, since my ex-boyfriend wanted to fulfill his promises of bringing me home at whatever cost. Before leaving, I told the building administration that my ex is not allowed to enter the condominium since he's a threat. This morning, my parents received a call from the doorman saying they called the police because my ex-boyfriend showed up and tried to find me. He was able to enter since I've forgotten to delete his Face ID, but fortunately, this monster was stopped at the reception. At first, he tried to talk to the staff, saying it was all a misunderstanding and we're back together, but they asked for proof and this idiot couldn't even provide for it. He became very violent and tried to attack the staff, so they called the police. When they started searching him in his bag, it was found a pair of knives, gloves and plastic bags. Now he's in the preventative detention. I'm still shaken up at the possibility of me being murdered by him, so this will be my final update since we'll be suing him. The fact that it was all caused by milk is really shocking because it made me see that the man I almost married is a monster. Thank you all for the support and advice. I don't know why, but my comments aren't showing up, but I want to say I'm really grateful for everything. Edit. To those who are harassing me at my DMs demanding proof, I have only one thing to say. I don't care what you think. For the sake of my privacy, there won't be any information about the condo, the CCTV footage, nothing. This is confidential information. I'm a victim. Stop harassing me for proof. I think the only way for you all to believe is if I've been really murdered and have my face on the news. Please stop and leave me alone. Gee, pretty lucky for OP there. That could have ended a lot worse. But yeah, crazy to think that this all kind of started over a milk feud. But that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, in this relationship. That's generally the way these things goes. Things build up over time and then one little thing tends to derail the whole thing. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by user Moo, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for being my nephew's first word? My brother and his wife have a baby over a year old. He's 15 months. I regularly babysit him. I don't mind it because I'm happy to help my brother, although his wife is a stay-at-home mum, so I'm not sure why I have to, but I don't want to cause trouble. I work and own a dairy farm. I asked my brother if it's okay I take his son to work with me whenever I babysit, otherwise I'd get nothing done. I have proper safety precautions in place, and he only comes with me in the tractor because it has a proper car seat. He said it's fine, my nephew loves the animals. He makes all kind of excited noises, and I try to encourage him to pet them when I hold them. They are all vaccinated and dosed regularly, and calm, again, cleared with my bro. We spend a lot of time together. My brother and his wife have been trying to get him to say his first words, although it's not simple and they don't exactly make it easier. Instead of mama or dada, they coax him to say mother and father, and my nephew just doesn't get it. He's a baby and those words seem kind of complicated for a baby. We were all over at my parents' house for a Sunday get-together, and I was sitting playing blocks with my nephew. He suddenly looks up at me and starts going, buh, 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 buh. I thought it was just normal baby talk. And then he gets more aggressive, repeating those letters over and over again. Then he starts going, n. He then shouts, Ben, and points at me and laughs, Ben, my name. My brother and sister-in-law start yelling at me, saying I was coaching him and how I was being selfish. They immediately pick him up, and my brother yells at me, You took away his first word that was supposed to be our moment. They storm off to another room, and they stay in there for about 10 minutes, and then come out and leave. But as they're leaving, the baby looks at me again and shouts in the playful baby voice, Ben, then points at me again. My sister-in-law shouts at her son, so her son starts crying. Then she shouts at him more, starts crying herself, and they leave. My parents think I'm a butt and I shouldn't have been teaching him my name, but I haven't. The only time he hears my name is when anyone else says it. They think I should apologize to my sister-in-law for ruining what should have been a mother's special moment. But honestly, my sister-in-law doesn't act like much of a mother. She doesn't work. I have a son 5 days a week. I refuse to take him on Saturdays and Sundays because I want to get some nitty-gritty work done, and she throws fits about it. At family events, he's always offloaded to me, to play with, to feed. She pumps, always has, I'm not judging her for it, not doing direct breastfeeding by the way, to calm down any tantrums and to change when he goes to the bathroom with his diapers. What do you think, Reddit? Gee, definitely not the a-hole. What do you guys reckon? Like, if a kid's with you for 5 days a week, he's going to be bonding with you much quicker than if he's only with you for 2. That's just the way it works. Opie gives more info in the comments. I would have the kid every day if I didn't put my foot down and say I need Saturday to do some heavy dangerous work, otherwise I'd get nothing done. She doesn't have PPD, she went to therapy after he was born, and they said she was fine. Her reason for staying at home is so she can have some peace. They don't really talk to their kid that much, just kind of wait for him to cry for something. They've been going, say mother, father, depending on who is speaking to him, but don't really partake in the fun and silliness that is baby talk like I do. They think it encourages him to just make sounds. He's been late to all his milestones. Sister-in-law says he has learning difficulties, but I've never noticed anything. He tried walking one day when I was at their house, and sister-in-law marched over and shoved him back on the ground, and she did that a lot when he would try to walk. I eventually got him to start full-on walking, well, baby walking, when he was on his own with me. My parents told sister-in-law and bro they wouldn't be doing any babysitting, apart from maybe once a month. I'm 25, bro is 29, and sister-in-law is 30. Before the baby was born, I told my brother that if he needed a hand in the first few months, meaning like a shelf put up or any manual labour, I'd be happy to help. They then said it was fine and just asked me to babysit every so often. It started as once every 2 weeks, but by 6 months it was 5 days a week. I have him today and I'm currently making okay progress with him, saying cow. He can really get the letters out, just hasn't put them together. He's a lot quieter today and isn't really talking. I'm worried my brother and sister-in-law punished him when he got home. I have him today again, but my sister-in-law told me not to talk to him, and if he says my name, to tell him to be quiet or yell at him. I'm not doing that, but baby is a lot quieter and hasn't said my name at all really. He doesn't even make his usual baby sounds. My sister-in-law is very posh and uptight. It's her way or the highway most of the time. She was always like this. I'm always friendly to her, though she doesn't like me when anyone calls their mum or dada anything other than mother or father. She thinks it's a barbaric and breeds stupidity. What can I do? I've tried bringing him back to their house, but they ignore me and will disappear to town if they see my pickup coming over the hills. And I don't want to neglect him. I seem to be the only positive influence in his life. Talking to my brother is pointless. He agrees with everything she says, even when she's not around. He would also shove him down when he tried walking. When he tried crawling, my brother picked him up and would strap him tightly into the car seat that just sits on their living room floor. She wanted it. She would talk for ages after they got married about how excited she was to have a cute baby and how he and she were going to be smarter and better and do everything faster than all the other kids. Yeah, OP's definitely not the a-hole here. I think he kind of hit the nail on the head. He seems to be their only positive influence in this kid's life, and that's why the kids bonded to him. Anyway, let's jump to the update. I figured I would give you all an update. Thanks for all the advice and help, everyone. I did not call CPS. Our country has something else, but for simplicity I'll just refer to it as CPS. Straight away, that was probably my biggest mistake. I've always tried to see the good in people and trust and forgive others. It's a terrible habit to have in this modern day, but that's just always been me. I brought the little one over to his parents' house early Friday afternoon and told them it's their baby. They need to look after it. I wasn't going to babysit anymore. Not unless it's a dire emergency such as death or illness. I gave them parenting books and explained everything they were doing wrong. We had a long talk for a few hours, and I honestly thought we got somewhere. I went over Sunday afternoon and little one was doing great. He was doing the baby stumble all over the room. He was laughing. It seemed great. The car seat was nowhere to be found. I thought we'd turned a corner. He even said his second word. It's Will. Not sure why, but he uses it now to get attention instead of Ben. I was only over for an hour and they all seemed happy. On the way out, I mentioned to my brother that on Monday I was going to be helping my fiancée move into mine. Monday morning rolls round. I get up, milk, feed the dry cows and calves, bed everything, and put the milking stock out to the grass. I was running late to meet my fiancée, who I'll call Aya, so I took off my overalls, ran into the house, grabbed my keys for my pickup off the table. I didn't even look in the living room. You can see where it's going already. It was 10 o'clock at this point. I put my trailer on and went over to Aya's. I was there for 3 hours helping her load and pack stuff. We went and got lunch at around 2. We stayed at the cafe for an hour, went shopping together for an hour or so, then back to hers to lift my truck and the rest of her stuff. We got back to mine at around 7. We were standing talking in my yard when we both heard screaming and crying. I unlocked the door and ran in, and was greeted with an image I'll never forget. Little one was on the floor, screaming and crying. His face all red. He was sucking on one of the unopened bottles of breast milk. His high chair that I have was lying on the floor. He had tried climbing it earlier in the day. I looked back through the cameras after CPS came. The TV was on the ground, broke. The place was a mess. His diaper was a mess. I picked him up and began calming him while I changed him. Aya put 3 bottles in the microwave to heat up, and then took him to feed him for me. I got a text then from my bro, asking if I could bring him back to theirs at around 8, because they had a surprise for everyone. They were having an announcement party, which is why I had to babysit, so they could get it all ready. They hadn't texted me at all earlier. I then thought about ringing my bro, but as I looked at my fiancé, who was yanking the bottle out of the little one's mouth so he didn't drink too fast, he was really aggressively gulping it down, and give himself stomach problems, I decided to call CPS and the police. CPS came to us, and the police went to theirs. I handed little one over and gave my statement, as well as a copy of my CCTV. My sister-in-law arrived at mine at 7 a.m. and dropped little one off. My living room baby monitor caught nearly all of little one's movements, and one of my outside cameras caught a fair bit of his movement in the kitchen. He pulled the TV down on top of himself after he'd been crying for a few hours. That's how he got his forehead bruise. He tried to climb into his high chair, but that fell onto him and bruised his shoulder. He sat in the car seat I have on the living room floor. I took it out of my truck to make room for boxes, and just screamed my name, and then just screamed nothing. His voice was hoarse by this point. What was sister-in-law's surprise, you wonder? Well, it's nothing, only that she's pregnant again, because in her words, the first one was a breeze, and she wants a daughter. Unfortunately, CPS in my country believes strongly in rehabilitation, but it's aggressive rehab, not just, here's your kid, try and do better. It's the whole 9 yards. My sister-in-law has a new therapist, and they must do couples counselling as well as parenting classes, and weekly visitations by CPS from now until the new baby is 2 years. I have been appointed as a watcher for little one, meaning anyone that wants to visit has to be approved by me, and a bunch of other things must go through me. I know I made a mistake in trusting them, but I really thought that they would change. Aya and I are now fully moved in together. I haven't babysitted at all this week. Bro and sister-in-law are in between court appearances and other mandated events, as well as being a parent. They struck a deal with a prosecutor and CPS, 3 years suspended sentence and a bunch of other restrictions, which is how this all progressed so fast. My parents have finally seen sister-in-law and bro for what they are, and have apologised profusely to me. I'm getting married in March, but I've demoted my bro from best man to guest. I just promoted my best friend, and picked another friend to be a new groomsman to keep it even with Aya's bridesmaids. I'm contemplating uninviting them, but I'm going to think about it for a while. A lot of you said I should adopt little one, but the truth is, I don't want to. I love him and will always be there for him, but I want it to be in a fun but caring uncle capacity. I know this sounds selfish, but I just can't explain my love for him. I want to have my own family and still be a part of his. I hope you all understand this. There is still a lot happening, so I might make an update too, much later, but this is all that I can share at this point. Bro and sister-in-law are mad at me and refusing to talk, outside of anything that they are legally required to talk to me about. I don't see why they're mad at me, though they left the baby, which hadn't had breakfast, at my house, and didn't tell me, when they knew I was going to be away. Please feel free to leave some more advice or thoughts. I do read them, even all the negative ones, but take care everyone, and thank you all for your help. Holy moly, that took a turn, didn't it? We'll jump to the last update for this one. Hi everyone, it's been almost a month, so I thought I would post an update here. I first tried having a civilized conversation with little one's parents, and it worked for 2 days. Then it was back to me looking after him, so I called CPS. There's a whole incident on my page if you're curious. Sister-in-law is unfortunately pregnant again because apparently raising the first one was simple and easy. She also used the word breeze. CPS has them on a strict regimen with regular therapy for them all, and classes for the parents. Sister-in-law's new therapist has diagnosed her with narcissistic personality disorder, as well as a few other things, but not PPD surprisingly. I didn't mention it in the original post because it wasn't relative, but I was engaged at the time. I'm not anymore though, because I'm married. I invited little one and his parents. He has said his second word, it's Will. He doesn't know any people called Will though, and he hasn't really said my name much. His physiologist says it's because he associates it with yelling at him now. But he said it at my wedding, along with a new word that I definitely didn't teach him. There was a quiet moment when my best man passed the mic to my wife's mum, and little one chose that moment to demonstrate his vocabulary. Ben, Will, F. Everyone started laughing except his parents, who were mortified. They see themselves as better than everyone else. They did try to blame me for the F word, but it's not my go-to swear word. Idiot would be my main choice. His parents are doing better. My bro was the golden child, but he's fallen out of favour with my parents since CPS was called. I've been over to their house and everything seems fine. No car seat in the living room floor, little one running around laughing, making noises, enjoying himself. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, has called me multiple times, crying, because little one would cry for no reason, or he wouldn't sleep, despite being fed and changed. All normal baby things she wants me to solve, but she needs to learn, especially with number 2 on the way. That's all really. I want to thank everyone for their help. I might make more posts on my account, not on this sub, but take care everyone. Help my roommate rob us and make us homeless? Bye-bye army officer job. After my son was born and my wife almost died from pulmonary embolisms due to undiagnosed lupus eating her lungs, we finally managed to go on our first family vacation when my wife's health recovered. To preface this, we had to get a roommate to help with bills during this time, and a longtime friend was happy to help out and get a reasonable place to stay. Now, this is where Army Liar comes in. I'd known this guy for almost 2 decades, spent entire summers at his family's place, and even lived with him on multiple occasions. I genuinely thought of this guy as my brother, cried in each other's arms type crap. But, as dumb people do, he developed a massive ego after his parents paid his way through Colorado State University, Pueblo. He started hanging with the definition of giga-chads, and all of a sudden is nothing but conservative politics and lying his butt off to get into reserve officers training program for the army at the college. This is important for later. Working out at the college with his bros, and generally being above hanging with people who couldn't have a golden parachute from their parents. So, Army Liar graduates, gets commissioned as an officer, and it's a shock when he wants to come hiking and partake of adventurous, generally wild college youth stuff. My roommate gets together with him, and through the wonders of the World Wide Web, we had a great time. I managed to decompress from my almost dying wife, as well as the struggles of being a new father. Now, back to the vacation. We visit family in Oklahoma. I had not seen my family in ages, and it's a great time. When we arrive back home, half the whole house is empty. There is a note from roommate that Army Liar helped him move all his crap out, and good luck. Understandably, this was a terrible turn of events. Any parent will tell you, you can't just plop some rando in the now vacant room due to trust concerns and an infant present. Now, I'm frantic at this point. Tons of our crap is missing. Our marriage documents, birth certificates, lease, wife's 3Ds, and more, all gone. I start blowing the roommate up, and Army Liar calls me. He proceeded to tell me he orchestrated it all because roommate was not really happy here and needed to move back to central BFE Texas from Colorado. I know, it's silly. I'm obviously upset, but Army Liar was my chosen brother. Literally take a bullet for him. I explain that I'm missing all the things I've noticed. This motherfricker has the nerve to say, yeah, not my problem. I was floored. He had spread some bullcrap about me treating my roommate badly to his whole family, and they stopped talking to me. These are people who essentially raised me, housed me, and who were better parents than my own. I'll confess that I did something then that I was not proud of at the time. I told Army Liar that if he won't at least help me get my things back, I would have to contact his army supervisor and explain how he essentially just helped rob me. He laughed and told me to go right ahead. In the end, I caved and didn't do anything. I was too mentally and emotionally exhausted. My wife was crushed, and my son was upset by our constant crying and worrying about how we were going to pay our bills. Ultimately, we lost our place and were forced to attempt moving back to my parents, which was not a solution because my mum is a terrible human and had filled every available space with foster children to gain the state for money. We lived out of our car until I found a temporary job in Houston, which ended and decided that they were done with the project I headed and terminated my position after telling me I would be moved to salary. Back to living in a car. This was the darkest time of my entire life thus far, and more than once I fantasized about driving my family off a bridge or into oncoming traffic just to escape this hell. I finally landed a stable job back in Colorado, was able to get counseling, and rebuild our life in a way that depended on nobody but myself. Happiness actually came back into our lives. My 2-year-old son would never remember this dark period, and I made friends who put Army Liar to shame. But what's this? I hear from some old friends that Army Liar dropped them like old garbage, and they missed him, wondering if I knew where to find him. And find him I did. Turns out B-boy Army Liar got married and was travelling the globe as an army officer, strongly exuding the whole 10 yards of my crap doesn't stink vibes. I remarked to one of my good new friends, who just left the Navy, that I couldn't believe they gave Army Liar a security clearance, with all the things Army Liar had done in the past, which would disqualify such a clearance. My friend told me that Army Liar most likely lied and had his new bro friends do all of his interviews, because if the Army found out, they wouldn't have cleared him. Cue the gears to start turning. Turns out it's incredibly easy to get in contact with people who care in the Army. I talked through Army Liar's complete past, leaving nothing unsaid. I threw my own dignity to the wind and spilled every illicit detail of the shenanigans we were involved in as 18 to 23-year-olds, including the previously mentioned relaxing hiking trip, the one he took after his swearing in. Needless to say, guess who should pop onto my LinkedIn feed as transitioning out of the Army without a listed clearance? Now, Army Liar and his wife live at separate addresses, and I'm sure that has nothing to do with forwarding his past full of legally questionable deeds to her good Christian cell phone number, but we will never know. I now go look at his obviously depressed face on LinkedIn any time I'm feeling down. Don't ever let people convince you to forgive and forget. Burn those bridges down. They deserve it, and I promise it will be the best feeling you've ever felt. I know it was for me. Our next title is Revenge on the Movie Producer. Please allow me to note well in advance, this story is not mine. In fact, it's a rather popular story in a town I once lived in, Savannah, Georgia, and centers around one homeowner who got royally annoyed with a movie producer. There will be a note at the end about the fellow this story is about for those interested. Okay, so first and foremost, when movie producers are looking for places to set a movie that takes place in colonial or even 1800 cities in the US, due to the sheer number of parks, wide roads and period houses, they will often select Savannah, Georgia. They'll pull all the Spanish moss out of the trees or trim it back, pour dirt on the roads around the squares, and effectively backdate that part of the city to fit most any place, even up to some having used the area as a setting for places like early Washington DC, and even places in Britain or France. Typically, when producers do this, they will pay each homeowner whose house is used as a background flavour a couple $1,000s for the licensing to do so. That will be important later, trust me. They issue some rules, like no electric lights being visible, not coming out of any door that faces the street, and you have to move your automobiles away from the drive, if you have a drive. Well, 1979, a producer came from Hollywood with the intention of using Savannah for that very purpose. Specifically, the producer was from one of the big 3-letter TV channels and was working on making a made-for-TV movie, talking about the events after the assassination of Lincoln and the subsequent accusations of the doctor present at his death. The production went to the city to seek permission, and then sent an announcement out to each of the homeowners telling them of the various days that the shoot was going to take place. However, much to their downfall, they also noted that the production company would not be compensating the homeowners for the use of their homes as backdrops. This was met with some great annoyance by the homeowners, who turned to the city for help, only to be told that it was their civic duty to allow the use of their homes. Most everyone agreed to this, and bit their lips. One homeowner, however, didn't. He decided to get revenge on the production, attempting to screw up their shooting every chance he got. He first started by leaving his car out in the front of the house, only to have it towed before filming started. He threatened legal action against the studio, but that fell on deaf ears. He forbade the use of his home in some of the shots, but the production company got the city to make him back down. Eventually, enough was enough. So he waited, biding his time until he was certain they were filming. When the day came that his house was being used as a background shot, the homeowner grabbed a massive Nazi flag and hung it out front of the house out of one of the top windows. The production company balked. They knew that this ruined any shot they'd use there. And what's more, they started to question just when he'd put the flag up. Was it just the one day, or had all the previous shots, some which showed the house from across the square, been ruined as well? They turned to the city for help, and the city just basically shrugged, saying that it was his First Amendment right to do that, and implied that had the production company paid the homeowners, as had always been done before, then this probably wouldn't have happened. In the end, the production company had to end shooting and go to the homeowner begging for him to remove the offending flag. He did eventually do so, but only after his lawyer got a contract in writing that required the production company to pay all the homeowners for having their homes in the shot. The flag came down, and shooting wrapped in less than a day. Interestingly, it's said that in the movie in question, The Ordeal of Dr. Mudd, there are several shots where you can see a bright red Nazi flag flying from one of the homes in the distance. That stunt cost the producer quite a substantial amount of money, and pushed production back at least a year while they tried to find every single instance that the flag flew in the background shots. This homeowner would go on himself to become very famous, though not for a good reason. Even so, he lives in amongst the legends of that story, both for his revenge against a movie producer and his later brush with fame. The fellow in question is none other than Jim Williams. Williams was an American antiques dealer and a historic preservationist based in Savannah, Georgia. He played an active role in the preservation of the Savannah Historic District for over 35 years. Williams was arrested on May 2, 1981, for the alleged murder of 21-year-old Denny Hansford, with whom he had been having a homosexual relationship, at Mercer House. After the subsequent 4 trials, a record in the state of Georgia, Williams was finally acquitted by a jury in Augusta in May 1989, 8 years after his arrest. Williams died in 1990 of heart failure, though AIDS is also suspected. He is the centre of the story Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil novel, and later Clint Eastwood movie. Our next title is Naval Officer Didn't Want to Live with Enlisted, Gets Fired. So this happened about 1.5 years ago, but I recently heard the news on how far my revenge went. I was a Navy enlisted service member and was stationed in Yokosuka, Japan for a few years before I got transferred back stateside. I worked in the main hospital that cared for service members and their beneficiaries. It's a small hospital, so everyone knows everyone. Shortly after I left, I caught wind of a new physician officer working in the radiology department. My friends would say he's horrible to work with, but that's nothing new. However, someone saw him print a letter, and he left it on his desk and took a picture of it and sent it to me. He's requesting to move from enlisting housing to officer. For context, military housing is available for those who are married, have a family, or are qualified based on their rank and depending on the military base itself. Typically, officer housing is much nicer than the enlisted. In Yokosuka, the housing is basically the same all around because it's overseas, but most of the housing are apartments, and each apartment complex is called a tower, example Fuji Tower. There are 9 towers, and 2 are for officers since enlisted members outnumber officers by a lot. Now, one thing about the military, crap happens. When getting stationed, it is the active duty member's responsibility to either apply for housing on and off base before arriving, depending on what is allowed. If there is limited space and you don't apply for housing on time, then you get put where there is space. So a new officer got placed in an enlisted tower. Mind you, enlisted members have families of their own, and other officers have been placed in enlisted housing before without an issue. Here are some quotes in his letter, and yes, this guy has a PhD. I have many valid objections to living in a building of almost all enlisted and even many lower enlisted being an officer. There is a lot of crime, violent actions, drug use and alcoholism that happens in enlisted housing. There are also sexual assaults and other perverts. I have a good-looking family, a wife and 2 daughters aged 3 and 4. They are prime targets to be victims for these enlisted deviant activities. My family should be safe in housing that is with officers. Officers are much more respectable, and these types of deviant activities are incredibly rare compared to the deviant activities of enlisted being commonplace. Other officer families will not want to visit us because our family lives on enlisted housing. My children need to make friends with other officer children. My wife needs to make friends with other officer wives. I need to make friends with other officers. Forcing an officer to live in a large apartment building with almost all enlisted is unethical. You get the idea. So this guy basically looks down on all enlisted service members, assuming every single one of us are drug users, perverts, pedos, criminals, etc. The kicker? He was an enlisted army member before going to officer school. In civilian terms, think of a manager that discriminates and calls all of his subordinates criminals, violent, alcoholics, pervs, drug users, etc., based on your job position. Forgetting that some have a family and, maybe aren't any of those things. And he not only have the authority to ruin your work life, he can ruin your personal life, deny days off, make you stay late, write you up if he doesn't like you, and not letting you promote. Safe to say, everyone was ticked and I have nothing to lose. I was separating soon and figured I'd have some fun before I get out. I created a burner Facebook account and posted the letter and the officer's picture on a popular military enlisted group page. Within 2 days, it spread like wildfire. But I wasn't done yet. The military has something called challenge coins. Think of trading cards, but custom coins that come in many shapes and sizes. I designed one with his face and a big middle finger on the back. On top of that, I designed stickers to show how proud us deviants are. Other coin designs came from other people as well, but so far I think mine was more popular. I sold over 70 coins to the initial person who originally sent me the letter at a huge discounted price, so she can sell them for a profit for herself. So the officer's face is everywhere because most people keep their coins displayed on their desk. No matter where the officer went at work, he would see his face on someone's desk. And since it didn't have his name on the coin, can't officially say it's him. I sold more stateside and even got some sent to Europe. I made about 3k overall, which was nice. The story even got featured on the online naval newspaper and on 2 popular YouTube channels. And if you're military, you know the only time big military cares is when it's too big to sweep under the rug. This story got the officer sent up to the captain's mast, which is like Navy court. He tried to say his wife was the one that wrote the letter, but no one is buying it because her writing style is way worse. She even tried to take the fall, but no one believed her. They both ended up deleting all social media. Due to this, he got served 3 UCMJ articles, which basically are his offences. But wait, there's more. When you're in the military, you have a deadline on how long you can be at a certain rank. If you don't pick up, then you're kicked out. And because he's new and got served UCMJ articles, he won't be up for promotion and therefore was involuntarily separated. Also, the officer program he went through pays for his PhD. When the military pays for your PhD, you have to serve 10 years to pay them back. If you don't complete 10 years, you have to pay the military back with money instead of time. So he lost his job and now has to pay back the military for his PhD. And since it takes a while for the paperwork to have him and his family sent back stateside, you can bet he socially suffered because no one worked with him. Our next title is All Army Service Records Lost. This happened a few years back. My dad found out he was super allergic to some kind of shrub in central Texas, Fort Hood, after he was transferred there. As a result, he was restricted to office work and prohibited by Army doctors from outdoor duties. His West Point grad commanding officer was a hyper warrior kind of dude who detested soldiers who didn't want to train 24/7. Unfortunately, he thought my dad was milking his allergies in order to avoid being a real soldier. My dad was also married and my mum was pregnant with my older sister, a situation that infuriated the captain because reasons. The CO never, ever passed an opportunity to humiliate my dad by questioning his manhood, doubting his commitment to protecting the Constitution, disparaging his duties, etc. The CO would call him out in front of the company or debase him in front of higher HQ staff. He'd call the house at 6 a.m. on Sunday and order Dad in for bullcrap reasons, anything to pee him off. In short, he made his life a living hell. When my dad got the orders to leave active duty, which enraged the CO, he found out that the CO received orders for an assignment that was a notch needed to guarantee promotions as well as other plum jobs. Dad decided to frick with his official records before leaving. As company clerk, he had full access to unit personnel files, orders, etc., which meant he also had keys to the building as well. This was during the pre-digital, pre-computer era. The night before my dad was to get out, he took all of the captain's personnel folders and mailed them separately and anonymously to various posts around the globe, knowing full well it would take weeks to deliver them to geographically unrelated unit mailrooms around the world that may or may not open the packages in order to return them. It just so happened that the unit was in the field for a 2-week exercise on the day my dad left, which meant a skeleton crew would man the phones and mow lawns until they returned from the field. No one was the wiser for weeks. One of my dad's old poker-playing sergeant's buds wrote a few months later telling him that the captain went ballistic, that the missing file seriously damaged the frick face of a captain's career prospects since some of the files were lost in the system. Therefore, the coveted assignment orders were cancelled and the entire personnel record had to be reconstructed manually by the Department of the Army. My dad said it was a teaching moment for the cruel jerk that you should never frick with your unit clerk because even chairborne rangers know how to seriously wound enemies, foreign and domestic. Boyfriend wants to be Polly. This is a long story. We've been dating for 8 years, working together for 7 of those years. 5 of those we started our own business with another friend. In 2020, Boyfriend's father catches COVID, beats it in January, transferred to a recovery home, and due to malpractice passes away unexpectedly in March 2021. Boyfriend becomes distant for obvious reasons. I try to support him the best I can emotionally while running our business. Fast forward to October. He tells me he wants to go visit his friends a town over by himself. I think none of it, but seeing he's trying to get back to his lively self. I get a call around 5 about, "How angry will you be if I go do spooky stuff without you?" I was a little upset, since I felt left out, but said sure. He kept texting me until 10, saying he'd be home in a bit, then turns off his phone. He finally turns it back on at 7, makes an excuse about being too drunk to drive home, and didn't feel like arguing. I'm livid, not to mention it was our anniversary weekend. We talked it through, and moved on with the event in the back of my mind. November continued with him having weekends wanting to go out with friends, but returning home on time. I couldn't shake my gut feeling. We go on a vacation, just the two of us, out of the country. He passed out drunk from drinking with some strangers. I can't help myself and look through his phone. "I miss you. Wish you were here." My stomach dropped, and I resist all urges to smother him in his sleep. I confront him the next morning since he was too drunk to function. He accuses me of ruining the vacation. Why now? I felt betrayed and angry. He promised to never contact her again. She meant nothing. Less than a week goes by, and he tells me he needs to talk to her. They were just friends, he insisted. That they had connected over his father's death, and she'd been emotionally supporting him. I suggest us going to couples therapy. He immediately shoots it down. I told him to do whatever he wanted, since he couldn't keep a simple promise with someone that meant nothing. I'd fallen into a horrible depression, and went to doctor to get some meds before I hurt myself. A few weeks go by, and he brings up that he wants us to have an open or poly relationship with her. Heck no. While it wasn't the first time he brought up an open relationship, the thought of her in my life revolted me. He continues to harass me for the next few months, until I finally agree in June, due to an ultimatum. Poly, or I continue to cheat on you. I can't do monogamous. I immediately regretted opening the door. He begins spending more time with her, going on trips. We continue to distance. He begs me to meet her, to give her a chance. I do. Nothing changes. He finally realizes our business is not doing well due to his negligence, and plans to start helping more and scheduling properly to assure we are all getting the proper time. Similar to how most people complain, getting home late to stare at his phone really didn't count as spending time with me. I found out from a friend that he had taken her to dinner with friends, supposed to be a secret. I confront him over the phone since I'm out of town. He said it didn't mean anything, but I felt hurt. We talk it through before hanging up. He asks, "How mad will I be if I take her to see my uncle?" I hang up on him, not wanting to continue to fight. He opened yet another door, now family. By September, I had enough. I told him I was tired of being ignored, toxic and depressed. He asked if I'd found someone new. I just didn't want to continue being in a poly relationship with people that had betrayed me. I felt a third wheel in my own relationship. He begged me once again. New plan. I agree with the exception that we go to couples therapy. Months go by. Still no therapy. I've had enough and bring it up again. I wanted him out of my house. I wanted us to break up, unless he left her. He brings up the reason he's with her is because I don't provide him with what he needs, to be desired and intimate. We'd always struggled with him in the past. Our drives are completely the opposite. We talk, we hash out a plan. Again. Final straw. Her or me. I wanted to work on us, rebuild our relationship, find each other, be happy. He agreed, but that it needed to be next time he saw her, that he didn't want to do it over text. Okay. They had plans to go to Halloween. I showed interest in what they were doing since he's going to be gone Friday and Saturday. He asked me if I want to come, that it'd be nice if I get along with her. I snapped. It's been 2 months of me telling him I feel like I'm on thin ice over our situation. He said he didn't realize he had a timeline to break up with her. I asked him what would be a good date for him then. He said end of January after their cruise. I felt defeated. I asked him that, okay, then he couldn't stay with me while he was with her, that he needed to find his own place. I'm done. I give up. I stared into space as he muttered these while packing. You were throwing me away. I'm sorry I exist. I didn't realize I meant nothing to you. If I'm not with you, I'm leaving her too. Good luck tonight. I'm going to cry myself to sleep." After a week, I caved, let him back home. I couldn't stand him saying he was homeless. I feel empty now when I'm with him. I made it clear I didn't want the person who triggers my betrayal trauma in my life, but he's adamant I won't like the next person he finds. We started talking again, holidays coming up. She's upset since she's unsure how or if he's going to spend them with her. His birthday is coming up. I asked him what he wanted. He said it'd be nice if all three of us could get lunch or dinner. I told him, if I did, to be 100% clear, still doesn't mean I want them in my life. I'd like to run away, but feel trapped due to our business and life. I do still somewhat love him, but right now I feel numb. If I let myself feel, I know he's just going to hurt me. The constant roller coaster has been hell. I know I don't want Polly, but it's hard to leave someone you've built a life with. Getting this off my chest has really helped. I don't have a support group to talk to. Trying to focus on myself and my journey. I've been in therapy for a few months now. Time to focus on my health and my life. Journey to a functional unicycle. Edit. I do want to clarify a few things. I don't own our business. I've invested a lot of time and money into it. The only reason I don't want to leave our business is that I love what I do and I love the people. We also sat him down in August with the other executives to talk about his absence from the business, and he's been turning that around. I don't want to come off as completely innocent. He did sit me down multiple times to talk about my lack of intimacy, but we never worked together to resolve this in the past. The problem has only gotten worse with everything above. I don't think I mind Polly. I mind being in Polly with people who have betrayed me. They don't seem to understand how their actions have affected me. This part hurts the most. Wow, what did I just read? This woman is getting manipulated bad and she doesn't see how. She should get out ASAP in my opinion. And the guy clearly doesn't care about her anymore. Like he's just in a comfortable situation with his business and this other side chick, and he doesn't care about her feelings, and he's too much of a coward to end it. Yeah, move on. Let's see what the comments think. Girl, you've spent more energy on writing this than he spent on making you happy. Focus on yourself. Take the business with you as he does nothing, and don't spend a single minute with you more than necessary. As far as I read, you're the victim of blackmail. Your relationship is open because he blackmailed you to accept, to consent him to have a parallel relationship with another woman, to introduce her to your mutual friends, etc. Don't sell yourself so cheap. You deserve better. Take care. This is going to be your harsh reality check, but pull your head out of your butt. Woman the F up and leave. Kick his lying, cheating, disgusting butt out and block that mother effer. The frick are you thinking? Whoa, I'm homeless. Wow, why don't you care about me? This dude is a narcissist and just gaslights the F out of you and straight up lies. Yeah, you're depressed. Because of him. Yeah, you feel low and worthless. Because of him. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and get mad. Get ticked. Throw his crap out now. Change the locks now. Block his number now. He's homeless, but he has a whole other woman? I know dang well you're not that stupid, babe. Edit to add. What life did you build? One full of lies, betrayal, cheating, empty promises, gaslighting and depression. A life where he is causing harm to the business. You invested time in the beginning, but now you're just wasting time. For what? No sex is that good that you're this willfully blind. No, ma'am. He does not define your life's purpose. He does not control your happiness or self-worth. But he will destroy it. Yeah, that comment's spot on. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Ahoy there. I want to start off by thanking everyone for their comments in the last post. Honestly, as harsh as some of them were, they were in line with how I felt. I wanted to get it off my chest as a therapy mechanism, and it worked. I even showed him the post, which he tried to defend. I coloured him in the wrong light. Okay bruh, you cheated, WTF. I'd posted the original before Thanksgiving when I was struggling the most, as the previous year was when all my bells were ringing. I spent Thanksgiving with my family, and it felt so refreshing to be by myself. When I came back, I went through the motions of masking. It was almost Christmas. His birthday was coming up. His dead father's birthday, and it was just hard for the both of us on these dates. The week before Christmas, we had plans to have Christmas early with his family. I was flying later that week to spend Christmas with mine. I don't remember how the argument started, but it ended with my yelling at the top of my lungs that I didn't want to be with him anymore, and I didn't want that other woman in my life. Period. full freaking panic attack, but I was going to get that point across. He waited till I calmed down and asked if I still wanted to go. Obviously, no. He went by himself and I spent the day thinking. He spent the night at her place and I woke up with a plan the next day. I grabbed all the family and friends' presents, all his friends and family. I drove and dropped them all off. He texted me that morning, asking if I could attend if he wanted me to go. I told him no, I had no interest. On the way to drop the gifts off, I switched my flight to that same night. He came back later that day and without a word, I grabbed my stuff and left. He didn't even know I was flying out till he saw my location in another state. I was done. I basically told him I wasn't coming back until he left the house. By the beginning of 2023, he was out of my house and I came back a week later. Walking into a semi-empty house, I thought was going to be hard, but I was so relieved to have my house by myself. I was free. I'm free. I've spent the last few months really focusing on myself. I spent some time and money refurnishing the place to make it mine. I spent the last few weeks travelling by myself and loving every second of it. I have no one stressing me out when things aren't perfect. I have no one to ask me what we're eating. I just live how I want and do what I want, and it's great. I've realised how much gaslighting and brainwashing I've withstood in the past years in the name of love and care for someone else. Ladies, trust your guts. Trust your guts. He literally purposely made me feel like I was going crazy on purpose to satisfy his needs. That is so fricked. I finally get my answers in the end, and I've never been so satisfied. It wasn't me. I wasn't crazy. It's over. Cheers to that. For anyone out there struggling with a similar situation, I can't suggest focusing on getting out or therapy. Emotional abuse is a form of abuse. It comes in different shapes and sizes. You should be your number one. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Honestly, good to hear that OP got out of there and kind of wised up and made the decision to leave, finally. Yeah, a good ending, and that guy has some karma coming to him, I think. Anyway, let's jump to our next story. Okay, our next story was written on the same subreddit. It was written by user ProperPie8256, and it's titled, My Daughter Lied on My Wife. My 17-year-old daughter lied on my wife. I, 36 male, made the mistake of marrying the woman I got pregnant at 19 years old. We divorced when my daughter, Kay, was 6 months old. This relationship with my daughter and ex-wife has always been strained. I take most of the blame because I was a 19-year-old craphead just winging it through with life, with no purpose or sense of direction. To my ex's credit, she quickly got herself together and got an education, while handling most of the parenting. I know I effed up in my daughter's younger years, and that's nobody's fault but mine. Apparently nothing I do or say now will make up for it. Now she's 17, she's beautiful, smart, witty, well-mannered young woman, and it's 95% because of my ex's parenting. I love to brag about my daughter, but I would never take credit for how she turned out, as our relationship is incredibly strained. My ex is essentially forcing my daughter to spend every other weekend with me. My wife, 30 female, and her little sister, 3 female. My wife and I don't mind at all. My wife was so happy with this arrangement that she got her parents to take our 3-year-old on Saturdays, so my oldest daughter doesn't feel like her whole weekend is lost to a toddler. She stays with us Thursday to Sunday. This particular weekend her parents went to a wedding, so toddler stayed home. My 16-year-old was visibly upset by this, so my wife took toddler out for the day to keep the peace. That wasn't good enough for the oldest, because my wife would usually take Kay out for brunch, and since toddler was out with my wife, Kay and I went to lunch where she complained the entire time about how her whole weekend is ruined and she wanted to go home. My response was that life is inconvenient sometimes. Later that night, Kay's vindictive side comes out, and she told my ex that my wife hit her. My ex showed up to my house and called the cops and was screaming on my lawn that she was going to press charges and assault my wife. The cops showed up. Everyone is confused and crying. My daughter is begging to go home. The thing is, toddler wasn't feeling well, so my wife slept in the toddler's room since about 7:30. Baby monitor proves it. She didn't even leave to use the bathroom. We showed the cops this after my ex leaves with Kay. I apologised, and the cop, who was super understanding, said that he would spook Kay and my ex a little for wasting our time. I didn't know what he said to them, but Kay called back and was apologising and wanted to speak to my wife to apologise, but my wife was not having any of it. Won't speak to Kay, and I don't blame her. Ex is calling my wife immature for not speaking to a teenager who's trying to apologise. My wife has emotionally closed herself to Kay. She also stopped contributing to Kay's college fund. This hurt Kay the most, as my wife makes pretty good money. Her chances of attending her dream school were much better with 3 parents saving for it, instead of 2. This incident was 2 months ago, and Kay's attitude towards my wife has gone from frick off to love bombing. My wife just doesn't want to be involved at all anymore, and is offering to have Kay visit weekends again, but her and the toddler will stay at her parents' until Kay leaves. My ex is blaming my wife for not forgiving Kay for lying. My family is divided, saying Kay made a stupid teenager mistake and shouldn't be punished losing out on education. I won't make my wife interact with my daughter, but I'm also not going to contribute double to her college fund, which is what my ex is demanding. My wife, my ex and I were contributing equal parts, and my ex's new husband contributed nothing. I feel like my wife is being treated unfairly, but siding with my wife is making my relationship with my daughter worse. This got much longer than I expected. I really need some object insight here because I have no clue how to fix or manage this. Guys, this blew up way more than I expected. I can't possibly respond to every comment, so I'll address some of the repeated stuff. I'm fully supportive of my removing herself. I wouldn't dream of forcing her to be around someone who accused her of abuse. She is volunteering to spend weekends at her parents'. I'm not asking her to leave our home. Kay and Toddler have a great relationship. They enjoy each other. My wife's parents take Toddler on Saturdays, as a favour to us, but they were more than willing to do this. They love spending time with her. For those saying I'm not involved enough in making sure my daughter's facing consequences, she does not live with me. If I try to get involved with how her mother is disciplining her at home, I will promptly be told to go F myself. I'm currently trying to have an adult conversation with my ex about how serious this could have gotten, and that I won't let this be swept under the rug. Every time I bring it up, I'm blocked for 3 days. I haven't given up though. Oh gee, I wouldn't have much clue on what to do here. I mean, the daughter's still growing up and coming to terms with herself and her relationships with her parents and, still finding out new things, and I think she's just learnt a pretty good lesson about not lying to people like that. And yeah, as for the money thing, I'm not sure. There's going to have to be some mediation there. Anyway, let's jump to the comments. Daughter is learning the lesson of not biting the hand that feeds you. I would remain firm and honour your wife's wishes about not being around when your daughter is. What your daughter did is not just teenage drama. It could have resulted in Child Protective Services becoming involved and your baby being removed from your care. What she did is some serious crap, and I would not hesitate to allow the consequences to flow. Sounds like money is what is driving this offer to reconcile. Sometimes sorry isn't good enough, and the daughter needs to learn that. X is looking out for her own financial interests. The more you and wife chuck in, the less she has to. Yeah, spot on with that comment. Let's jump to the update. Hi all, I'm here to give an update because I've gotten many messages from concerned folks and I'm really touched. First off, thank you all. I didn't expect that response and all the great advice I got. I also let my wife read the post. She feels grateful and validated because this situation was making her question her sanity. Another thing I want to address is some of the nasty things said about my daughter. Not cool. I don't know how many of you actually have kids with your suggestions. This is a crap situation and was really out of character for her. But I love my daughter and will always support her. That does not mean I can't acknowledge when she's acting like a jerk. I got some very nasty messages and had to block several people because they decided to go full-blown internet troll. After some long conversations with my wife, she said she would be willing to have contact with Kay again, and possibly the college fund. I said no to the college fund. I would prefer my wife not contribute to Kay's education. Over the past 5 years, my wife has contributed about $14,000 to Kay's college fund, and I was ready to transfer all of that money back to her. She declined and is content just not contributing anything else. I finally got Kay and ex-wife to agree to a serious talk after threatening to pull that $14,000 out of the account. I finally got some truth out of Kay. She has a boyfriend. Ex-wife knew and didn't tell me. The weekends at my house were meant to keep her away from the boyfriend and friends. That particular weekend there was a party that Kay wanted to go to, and ex shut it down completely. Ex-wife told Kay not to tell me or the wife because we would cut her off, which is completely false. Ex-wife had to admit that's why she did it in front of Kay, and she was beyond angry. Then when it came time to address Kay using her stepmother in a lie that could have potentially landed her in prison, she started to cry. I believe she genuinely feels regret about her actions. She said she just wanted to go to the party with her friends, and since she couldn't, she said whatever she could do to get her mother to react because she didn't think I would allow her to go. Apparently when Kay is home, my ex keeps inside and she can't see her friends on weekends or after school because ex-wife thinks she should be inside. X got frustrated and stormed off and didn't want to continue the conversation. I had no idea my daughter was so isolated at her mother's house, and her mother manipulated her into thinking that my wife and I are the manipulative ones. She feels much regret about what she said about my wife, and understands why she wants to keep a distance. My wife loves Kay, and wants to slowly start building a relationship with her again. However, that still leaves the issue of what is happening to my daughter at home. She has explicitly said she is not being verbally, physically, or sexually abused. She is just isolated and not permitted to do much. I think this is because when X was Kay's age, she was out of control with her partying. I knew her then and she was wild. I told Kay she has a place at my house, but she wants to stay home. It is closer to her school and friends, and she just wants her mum to ease up some. They're working on it. My ex knows that we are onto her BS and has been playing nice, so we'll see how long that lasts. I reiterated to Kay that this one particular situation with her lying could have ruined many lives and has greatly impacted her own life, because her dream school is out of the question. Any conversation my ex tries to start about college money, I tell her we can talk about it after her or her husband deposits $14,000 into the account. She hasn't brought it up again. Until then, I will keep making the same contributions. My boyfriend has given me an ultimatum on the clothing I wanted to wear. My boyfriend, 19 male, and I, 19 female, have been together for a few months after taking a break for a year because I moved away for that year. Neither of us wanted to do long distance, and neither of us got into a relationship with anyone else. Before that, we were high school sweethearts for 2 years. Back then, he didn't care what I wore, or at least didn't communicate to me that he found certain clothing, like shirts with midriff showing, tighter dresses, or me posting vacation pictures, such as me on the beach in a bikini, uncomfortable for him. Now that we've gotten back together, he tells me it's a boundary for him that I wear more modest clothes because he doesn't want other men to, quote, see parts of his girlfriend that only he should see. He told me he felt like that before. He just felt happy that he got to be with me because he had liked me for years and didn't feel like it was his place to tell me what to wear. Now that we're back together, it's different. Yesterday we went through my clothes, and he told me what he is okay with me wearing and what he isn't. There was one specific dress that I loved, and he told me it's a no, and I started crying. We almost broke up over this, over one dress, until he asked me what I care more about, him or the dress. Obviously I told him I care more about him. It's very difficult for me because I'm very into fashion, and I don't see these clothes as too revealing or sexual at all. I also struggled with body image for years when I was younger, and this is taking me back to the mindset of not being able to wear certain clothes because I wanted to hide my body. However, I'm very dependent on him and value his opinion a lot. I don't know what to do. Geez, this sounds like a very juvenile relationship, and this guy needs a big reality check if he thinks he can tell his girlfriend what she can and can't wear. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Why do you want to be with someone so badly who is this controlling? OP replies, he got sad when I told him my friends said he was controlling. He tells me I can do what I want, but he won't be with me. We were both crying because we didn't want to break up over something as small as clothes, but right now we are not talking while he waits for me to choose, the dress or him. It sounds like he is extremely insecure. You need to put your foot down and tell him he cannot control you and what you wear when you go out. Him giving you an ultimatum is really him choosing to have a childish insecurity over a healthy relationship. OP replies, I asked him if it was an insecurity, and he told me that part of it is that, and part of it is he doesn't want to worry about me getting hit on or hurt somehow. Even though he tells me he trusts me, it's that he doesn't want the men to get something out of seeing me. He says it disgusts him to think about it. He said this is the most important thing to him after not lying and cheating, and out of the blue said, I would rather end up with someone less pretty and less kind than you, than with you if you want to wear tight clothes. He doesn't like leggings either. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the comments. This guy sounds insecure as. Needs to grow up. Anyway, let's go to the update. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for all the support and advice on my last post. I read every single comment and wanted to reply, but the reply option wasn't available. I'm new to Reddit. I'm not sure why the post was capped and doesn't allow any more comments. After feeling encouraged by your comments, I had the confidence to tell him that I choose being able to wear what I want. I reiterated how important fashion is to me and how his demands were bringing me back to a dark time of negative body image. We came to an agreement that there are fundamental differences in our values and what we want out of a relationship. Because I want to be encouraged and uplifted, while he wants a girl whose body is only his to look at. By the way, I wanted to say that this dress was not scandalous. It is tight in some parts, but doesn't show a lot of skin. He told me that we were done. He then blocked me on everything because, if he saw me, he would never be able to get over me. I cried for a couple of hours, and then got myself collected. I made an appointment with a therapist, and got a membership at a different gym than him. But then 5 hours later, he unblocked me, and sent a long paragraph about how he shouldn't have been so hasty, and was willing to change to make things work. Yesterday he texted me some more, asking to talk in person. I agreed to meet up for dinner in a public place. I wore the dress. He brought me a bouquet of white roses and my favourite chocolate. He told me I look beautiful, and that the 5 hours without me hurt so much, and at this point, he doesn't care if I'm walking around naked, as long as he's the one I'm with. Can this man's fundamental values really change overnight? Also, I felt almost giddy and excited once I was done crying. Now I feel bad for him. Nah, hell no, this girl needs to get out now. This guy just panicked after he broke up with you. People don't actually change that quickly. Like, as soon as he gets comfortable again, he's going to go back to his old ways. Hopefully OP sees this and breaks up with him completely. Anyway, let me know what you guys reckon in the comments, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It's written by user DepartureOld6400, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for making my brother's wedding reception about me? I, 25 female, am a bridesmaid to the fiancé, 30 female, of my older brother, 31 male. She and I aren't particularly close, but I don't dislike her, and I suspect she asked me just because I'm my brother's sister. I of course agreed, and I was even fine with her putting me in whatever style she wanted, so long as it didn't involve me cutting or dyeing my hair, any major changes. It's not my day. I could suck up an ugly dress and act like it's gorgeous if that makes her happy. The issue, however, is that I'm a wheelchair user. I know that the wedding venue is fine for me as it's our local church, totally accessible, so all good. It's the venue being used for the reception that worries me. I asked her where the reception was going to be, and if it was accessible for me, and had an accessible bathroom. Just covering my bases. She didn't get back to me. I figured she was busy, so left it a week or so before chasing her up again to re-ask. She told me she wasn't sure, so I asked where it was, and she told me. I ended up looking up the building, and my heart sank. It's an old building, not accessible at all for me, and no bathrooms I could feasibly use either. I told her this, and she got very upset, saying my brother had told her that he'd cover the cost, and she should just pick up whatever she loved, and that she loved this. She then went on to suggest that we could just have someone carry me into the building, and my family or the other bridesmaids could help me use the bathroom when needed, which the very idea of mortified me. I'm not about to agree to be carried in and needing help to go to the bathroom. I ended up giving her two options. If she wanted me at the reception, she needed to pick somewhere that was accessible. If she didn't pick somewhere accessible, then I'd of course still be her bridesmaid at the wedding, but I'd have to skip the reception. She got upset at this, as she feels like everyone, especially my family, will notice my absence and question it, and it'll make her look bad. She then told me I was making this about me, which wasn't fair when it was her day. I won't lie, at this point I was enraged. I wanted to tell my brother to let him sort this out, but I wasn't about to start crap between them over this, and I pointed out to her that yes, this was her day, and I had no intention of making it about me. However, by marrying my brother, she was joining our family, and she needed to realize that she was not as sensitive as she thought she was, and suggesting that I be carried into the building and aided going to the bathroom was downright insulting. This led to a larger fight, and she told me if my brother didn't already know I was her bridesmaid, that she'd not want me to be it anymore. I called it quits at that point, and told her she had my two options, and it was up to her which she wanted. Am I the jerk here? I don't feel like asking for minimum accessibility is a lot, but maybe I'm too upset by the situation, and her suggestions to see it clearly. OP elaborates more in the comments, more about why she hasn't gone to the brother yet. That's a good idea, I may have to talk to him about this. He's not at all inconsiderate, which is why I've been hesitant to get him involved, as I know with most people he'd get angry over this, and I don't want to start a fight with them. He likely assumed it was obvious that any venue needed to be wheelchair accessible. About the fiancé. I really hope it's not an indication of a cruel streak, as I don't want to think that of her. I'm really hoping it's just the stress of the wedding getting to her, but maybe I should bring it up to him before they get married to be safe. I will likely discuss this with my parents too and get them to weigh in on this matter. More about the building and where she lives. The UK, and yes there are, however historic buildings are a grey area, and so long as actual weddings aren't being held there, they don't have to be fully accessible. This is a tricky one, guys. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'm going to go with not the a-hole. Anyway, let's look at what the comments have to say. Not the a-hole. But I don't know why you wouldn't just tell your brother that you're sorry, but you won't be able to attend the reception because the location isn't accessible. Give him the chance to make this right in case he truly doesn't appreciate how inaccessible the reception location is. Not the a-hole. She was completely out of line to ignore your request for information about accessibility, especially given that you're going to be a part of her new family and her bridal party. This is on her. You asked early, she ignored you. She can have the venue she wants and you're not stopping her, but she has no grounds to demand you attend at a venue that doesn't accommodate you. To be honest, I know that you don't want to get your brother involved, but I think it might be a good idea before this gets too out of hand. Don't tear her apart, but just be very gracious. I'm so excited to be in your wedding, but it looks like the reception is going to be off the table for me due to the venue being inaccessible. Also, kind of confused why your brother didn't make it abundantly clear to her that each venue needed to be wheelchair accessible when he's lived with you your whole life. I hope he's not often that inconsiderate either. This isn't making her wedding about you. This is you simply declining an invitation that doesn't actually include you. She should have known better, and so should your brother. Maybe I'm stubborn, but the comment of, she told me if my brother didn't already know I was a bridesmaid, that she'd not want me to be anymore, would have made me call it quits and be a guest at the actual wedding, and not the reception due to inaccessibility. You're not the a-hole, but I wouldn't force her hand to change it. I would simply say that I cannot go, if that's where the reception is, and call it a day. If she chooses to keep it there, then she's choosing for others to notice, and ask questions, and she's choosing to exclude you. Righto, let's jump straight to the update. Update. Hi everyone, here's an update to the situation. As many of you suggested, I checked in with my brother and told him what was going on, and I found out that the reason he'd left the reception to her was they'd made an agreement with him covering the ceremony and she'd cover the reception. We're Catholic, so he cared more about the religious side of the event, or she cared more about the reception and party, as she's not religious, which isn't a bad thing, just different. I showed him the text and explained what had happened. He was ticked off at her suggestion I be carried into the building, and assisted in going to the bathroom. And after only a quick search of the venue she'd picked, he could also see it wouldn't work out for me, and promised he'd resolve this and have a talk with her. He was annoyed at me for not bringing this to his attention sooner, and told me I shouldn't worry about his feelings over this. The best part of all of this? The venue isn't even booked yet. He had assumed she'd pick out somewhere accessible, but has admitted that he should have ensured that, and not thought it a given, so he has told me he'll see it's changed, and if it isn't, they have a bigger problem on their hands. The part that really got to him though was the admission that she didn't want me as her bridesmaid, if he didn't already know, and he told me in that case he didn't want me being her bridesmaid, and instead wanted me to be his groomsman, which I agreed to. I've yet to hear back from him on what's happening, so I can only wait and see. I'll update further when I know more. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think. All in all, a pretty good ending I think, and really nice of the brother to offer that as an alternative rather than be the bridesmaid. Anyway, let me know what you reckon and we'll head to the next one. Okay, our next story was written by user dryleg9006 and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my girlfriend that my parents are gay? I'm 25 male, I have two parents. My birth dad, John, who's 48 male, and my other dad, Dwayne, who's 45 male. I call my birth dad, John, Dad, and I call my other dad, Dwayne, Pops. My birth dad, John, was married to my mum for a few years. Then she left my dad and yeah, they ended up divorcing and now she's somewhere in California. I don't know where or what she's doing, haven't talked to her in ages. So Dad and Pops I'm super close with. They are the best parents any child could ask for. I love both of them and they've always been with me. My dad introduced me to Pops when I was a little boy, and they had told me they were in a relationship, and I was all for it because I'd saw my dad become lonely and sad when he was single. So seeing the fact that my dad loves someone and has a life partner made me super happy. Pops and Dad got married, and we've been living an amazing life. I'm probably more close to Pops than my own dad, haha, due to the fact that Pops is really cool and he's laid back. I love both of them equally, and they love me as well, and I'm blessed to have them as parents. For a few months I've been dating this girl, Bella, who's my age. I thought she's pretty cute and I liked her, So we kicked it, and recently she told me, "My parents want to meet your parents and want to come over for dinner." I said, "Sure, I'll tell my family." So yesterday, Friday night, Bella comes in. Pops greets her and says, "Come on in, sweetheart, dinner is ready." She says, "You must be OP's dad, so good to meet you," and she shakes his hand, and she sees Dad come out of the kitchen. He's holding the mac and cheese tray with the mittens and is putting it on the table. Then Bella says, "Who's he?" I said, "Oh, that's my dad." She said, "I thought he's your dad." She's referring to Pops. I say, "Yeah, that's my Pops, and that's my dad." She pulls me to the side and says, "I didn't know your parents are gay. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me?" I genuinely didn't know why that'd be an issue or so, because you're dating me, not my parents and all, so it shouldn't matter. But I guess it's a concern for her. Her parents come at the door after they park the car, and Bella tells her parents, "Let's leave," and they left. I told my parents I'm sorry, and they said, "Son, don't worry, this is nothing new, haha." And then we all sat down and enjoyed dinner and went to sleep. So, am I the a-hole for not telling? Alright, let's jump straight to the comments. Not the a-hole. Did she ever tell you her parents are straight? I agree, not the a-hole, but a comment before she met them would have been good. Even a, quote, "So we'll be meeting my dad, his name is John, and my pops, his name is Dwayne." I can't believe you got to the stage of her meeting your parents without you ever talking about them. The reason to say something is not because it matters to your relationship, but because it will help her develop a relationship with your dads if she makes a good first impression. Most people would be surprised because of their heteronormativity, but also because it's just not average. I think it would have been better to say something, but by no means an a-hole move, and she is definitely the a-hole for how she reacted. Not the a-hole, but perhaps naive. Unfortunately, it's probably better to let a girlfriend know you have two dads, so you can weed out the homophobes before you accidentally bring them home for dinner. You've dated this girl for months. How has the subject of parents never come up? After my parents divorced, Dad met Pops and Pops raised me as his own. Seriously, what did you two talk about? Yeah, I agree with that. Really weird that he hasn't brought it up in conversation before. Like, talking about your parents and family dynamics and stuff is a pretty early thing to talk about in a relationship. Seems weird that it hasn't come up yet. Opie's not really the a-hole, he's just kind of stupid, to be honest. Like, you should know how certain people will react to something like that. You know, whether it's religion or anything else that might play a factor in how they react. Anyway, what do you guys reckon? Let me know in the comments. Alright, on to our last story for today. This one was posted by Am I the A-hole Cupcakes Ruined, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my gender reveal cupcakes?" I, female 22, found out last week my first baby's gender, and it's a little girl. My family are excited, and I decided to do a small gender reveal over the Easter weekend. I had this planned for Saturday, so a few days before, I asked a small local business if she could please make 12 cupcakes with pink and blue icing on top, and pink icing in the middle. She agreed, and said they would be ready to collect Friday evening. The plan was to pick the cakes up Friday, invite friends and family over Saturday, and give some guests a cupcake, which would reveal the gender. I only invited a few guests as my apartment is fairly small, and I didn't want to do a large gender reveal anyway, just something cute and fun. Plus, everyone loves cupcakes. So, Friday evening came. The small business owner, Claire, gave me her address to collect the cakes from, said they would cost £25, and they're ready to collect whenever. I drove to her apartment and knocked on the door. She greeted me there with the box of cupcakes, and they looked amazing. They were exactly how I imagined them, and thanked her for them. She gave me the box, but just as she did, her large pet dog came running up to me, barking, and jumped at me, knocking the box of cupcakes all over the floor. Claire apologized and shut the dog inside. He was still barking and jumping at the door. She said it's because he gets excited when people come and visit, but he wouldn't have hurt me as he's friendly. At this point I didn't know the damage to the cupcakes as the box landed upside down. I picked it up and the cakes were ruined. The icing had smashed all over the box, and some cakes had spilled out onto the ground. Claire looked horrified, as I understand she spent a few hours making them for me. She apologized and said she could remake them for free, but they wouldn't be ready until Sunday. I said unfortunately I'm expecting my guests tomorrow, and Sunday is no good, as I already had other plans. I explained I wouldn't be paying for these cupcakes, as they were inedible and ruined by her dog. We agreed payment upon receiving the goods, and since I never received them, I wouldn't be paying. She said that I should still pay as she had to buy ingredients for the cakes, and the costs of eggs has gone up, meaning she would be out of pocket. I said if she had control of her dog, then they wouldn't have been dropped, and I'm sorry, but again, I wouldn't be paying. I got in my car and left without the cupcakes. I still had guests attend on Saturday. I announced the gender in person rather than with some cupcakes, but it was still nice spending time with my friends and family. My family were all happy, but my sister-in-law said I should have still paid for the cupcakes, as she accepted it was her fault, and offered to remake them for me. I personally don't think I should have had to pay for them, but now I'm feeling slightly guilty as I understand it's a small business, and a loss of profit would affect her a lot harder than a larger business. Am I the a-hole? Personally, I'm going to go with not the a-hole. Considering she didn't receive the product that she wanted, then yeah, fair enough that she doesn't have to pay for it. Obviously, if we all had unlimited money, it'd be great to just pay Claire anyway, just to let her know that you appreciate the time that she spent on it. But yeah, if you don't receive the product, then fair enough, you don't have to pay for it. And that woman should keep better control of her dog when she has guests over, especially when it's business related. I've been a side chick for 5+ years. Yes, I'm serious. Coming here because I know I absolutely cannot discuss this with anyone in real life, but title says it all. I've been a side chick for over 5 years. I didn't know he had another girlfriend until about 2.5 years into the relationship. Keep in mind, by this time I was already so deep in love with this man and thought I'd marry him. Lost my V-card to him and everything. We met when I was young and he was a bit older, and the effect he had on me was insane. To cut a long story short, I was so in love with him already that I couldn't bear the thought of being without him, so I stayed. F me, I know. She doesn't know about me, but I know about her. His excuse for the whole thing is that he needs to stay with her because he's getting a permanent visa via their relationship, and that once he gets it, he'll leave her and we'll be together. I know this is freaking stupid, but I literally love this man so much, I don't know how to leave. But I know I must leave, and I've been slowly building the courage. It's especially hard because I have an insane level of chemistry with him. We're so compatible in every way, besides the fact that he has someone else. He helps me financially and emotionally, and I love being around him, and the sex is great. But I know this fricked up situation has to end and I need to move on. He lives with her too. They own a house and share a bed, but he claims they don't sleep together? ? I guess what's tipped me over the edge is that I just found out they adopted a dog together. We would always speak about adopting a husky together one day, but he's gone and done it with her behind my back. This quote-unquote relationship was doomed from the start, and I know what I have to do. The thought of living my life without him is almost too painful to think about, but it can't be much worse than crying myself to sleep every night knowing he's in bed with another woman. And yes, I know I'm a homewrecker and a frickin' idiot and a loser, but what else is this sub for? Oh geez, looks like Opie got herself in a pretty tricky situation here. Let's take a look at the comments. His excuse for this whole thing is that he needs to stay with her because he's getting a permanent visa via their relationship. This may be ignorant of me to assume, but if you're in the US, that means he'll have to marry her or have a baby with her. He is lying to you. It may be harsh to hear, but he is having sex with her. He is building a life with her. He is a selfish a-hole who is interested in only himself and his own wants. What he is doing is not love. It is not respect. It is not treating you or her with a modicum of consideration or decency. I'm so sorry you're in this situation, but you need to get yourself out of it now. You know you should have gotten yourself out of it as soon as you found out you were the other woman, but people are human and imperfect. This relationship is harming you in more ways than you understand right now, and will continue to. Get therapy. Help yourself. Girl, of course he's sleeping with her. Why wouldn't he if they're basically together and live under the same roof and sleep in the same bed? You're both being played, especially her because she has no idea you exist. If you want to right this wrong, then you need to come clean to her and tell her everything. Give her the choice to walk away. It's the least you can do for continuing this farce. A man who would betray and treat his significant other that way will do the same to you. There is no line he won't cross. Today it's her, tomorrow it is you. Remember this when you're asking yourself if you want him, or if it's worth it. You are not the exception to the rule. He may leave her and be with you, but it's only a matter of time before he does what he did to her, to you. I keep repeating this because this is how it will inevitably go. Don't wait for him. Leave. And don't look back. Also, be better. The minute you found out what he was doing, you should have ended things. Women like you are part of the problem. Yeah, hard to argue there with those comments. Opie seems pretty deluded in her understanding of this situation. She should have got out straight away if she had any kind of decent moral compass. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Opie posts first in the comments. I've read every response to this post and I want to thank you all. You're saying the things that I've said to myself 1,000 times over now. I know I am in the wrong, 100%. I didn't come here for sympathy. I came here for honesty and to have some internet strangers confirm what I already knew. I will be leaving him. I have used some of your words in the letter I've written to him. For some added context if anyone cares, I experienced some pretty heavy-duty trauma just before I found out I was the other woman. He was very much there for me, and I now realize I probably trauma bonded with him. I was 17 when we met, and he was in his early 20s. I don't want to call it grooming because it didn't feel like it, but maybe I'm being ignorant. I guess the whole point of grooming is that you don't know what's happening. This is genuinely not an excuse, but might help to understand why some people stay in situations where they absolutely have no business being in. And for those telling me to tell the other girlfriend, believe me, I want to, but I'm honestly kind of scared of him. Too much to explain here, but I don't doubt that he would make my life a living hell if I effed up his life and chanced to stay in this country, or worse. Thank you all, the ones who are kind and the ones who are tough, for giving me the last bit of courage I needed to do this. Jesus Christ, she was 17 and he was in his 20s. That's just a whole nother layer that confirms everyone's feelings about this guy. Thank God Opie's coming to her senses on this one. Let's jump to the update. Here's the update from yesterday's post. Apologies that it's a long one. Firstly, I really need every one of you to know how much you've helped me. I'm not super into Reddit and had no idea how amazing people are on here to give genuine, great and honest advice. You all really opened my eyes to the truth of this situation. I finally left him. I invited him around because we needed to talk. Now, before I get crucified for this, he has a key to my house. So frickin' dumb, I know. So I needed to see him in person to retrieve it. Plus, that selfish part of me wanted to tell him in person just how much he's destroyed my self-worth and life in general. I wrote a letter to compose all my thoughts and included a lot of the points you guys made in my original post. He took it surprisingly well and actually cried, which I've never seen before. He was upset about my decision, but agreed completely that it couldn't continue. He did apologize for his part in this, and for the pain he's caused me by essentially wasting my time for years. He still stands by the visa story. Who knows if it's real, but at this point, there's nothing he could say to get me back. Perhaps it was just more emotional manipulation, but I'll say he seemed sincere. I got my key and blocked him off everything, and said we'd need to go totally no contact. He obviously knows where I live and work, so I needed to be sure to end things somewhat amicably for safety reasons. Now, almost every single comment told me to tell the other girlfriend. Please understand that I absolutely do want to do that, but it's not always that simple. I mentioned this in a comment, but I'm scared of what he may do in retaliation. I don't know if he's a violent person, but he's definitely unpredictable sometimes, and he would likely do his best to ruin my life any way he could if I exposed him. He also has sensitive media of me from my younger days, which I have asked him to delete. He claims he did, but I don't believe it, to be honest. Revenge porn recently became a crime where I live, so if he tries it, I'll certainly go the legal route. I'll also be moving in a few months' time, and likely getting a different job, so I've kept all the evidence and plan to tell her when I'm in a safer position. I know I'm being a coward here, but I don't know what else to do. A bunch of you also told me to get STD checked because he probably has other side pieces. I naively never really thought of this, but I've booked the appointment. Let's hope he hasn't fricked up my life even more. As a final note, I want to reiterate that I know that I was completely wrong in my actions once I found out about the other girlfriend. I know I should have walked away. Hopefully someone else can take this as a lesson to never mess around with an older man when you're a teen. He manipulated me to the point where I genuinely believed I couldn't live without him, even until now. I'm still scared of what the future looks like for me, but I will absolutely be getting some therapy. I hope I can come out on the other side of this as a better person. Even with the limited hindsight I now have, I'm disgusted by how selfish I was, and I will never allow myself to make the mistake like this again. Thanks again, Reddit. So many of you shared such loving and kind words, and even the comments that were brutal. You all helped me to see myself clearly and it was the wake-up call I so desperately needed. Onwards and upwards. Oh wow, a good ending for OP there. Glad she got out. And yeah, maybe she can expose him when she's in a better position to. The other girlfriend surely doesn't deserve what's happening to her either. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Would you have done the same thing? Have you been in a similar situation perhaps? Let me know. Anyway, let's jump to the next story. Okay, our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user SupermoonInflation and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for removing my wife's, quote, wrist privileges? Sorry for this random throwaway. I'm 36 male and she is 34 female. The honest core of this question is that I'm super anti-notification. I know I sound like a boomer, but I got sick of knowing that Aunt Maple commented on my Insta post years ago. I'll open the app if I want to know that. I do not need to know about Aunt Maple's comment until the second I seek out that information. However, I appreciated the health and activity features on the Apple Watch, so I got one for myself and I tediously curated the information delivered to me on my wrist. Notifications are even worse on the watch because I can't exactly just flip the watch over and ignore it. My wife, whom I love very much, wanted to make sure she could get a hold of me, so we use a chat app that allows notifications. The rules were very clear when I switched to this app. She can text me once and I'll answer at my earliest convenience. I will always know it's her texting because she is the only person who has access to my wrist notifications. Any more than one text means emergency. She has run afoul of that rule many times, as you can guess. She says she literally cannot stop herself when she gets excited, and that she's not neurotypical like me, so I can't understand. And she's right. I don't understand what it's like to have ADHD, but I do know what my boundaries are with my wrist buzzing while I'm at work. Last week, she sent me like 4 consecutive texts because she found out that her coworker, who I don't know and frankly do not care about, had gotten a DUI while he was in college years ago. So that night I sat down with her and said I was not going to do the wrist notifications anymore, and that I regularly check my phone for messages from her. She was kind of vaguely mad about it for a week, but yesterday I finally just confronted her about it, and she said that she thought I was being disrespectful of her limitations, and that everyone gets used to notifications eventually. I said it had been 3 months and I was still not used to it, and she said I should give it more time. Here's where I might have been a jerk. I told her I thought this was a tiny issue that wasn't even worth being angry about. I still check my phone for her text, and I've never missed one by more than like 15 minutes. I also explained that she can still call me if there's an emergency. She's still mad. Am I the a-hole? Alright folks, what do you think about this one? Personally, as I was reading through it, I was kind of thinking, like, just get over it, man. Like, it's just a notification. How can it bother you that much? You really got to have some other problem or some short attention span or something if a notification on your wrist is distracting you to the point where you have to write a Reddit post about it. But also, on the other hand, it's a bit of a non-issue. Like, he checks his phone every 15 minutes anyway, or something like that. Like, what's the point of the watch then? But he shouldn't put blame on his wife at all. Like, he should blame himself for getting the watch and agreeing to something that he knew he was going to hate. The wife is not, like, out of the ordinary in regards to, like, her texting frequency or anything like that. Like, it's pretty normal to text someone more than once every now and again. But yeah, just stay with the phone. Who cares? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, OP elaborates a bit more in the comments. More about what happens. She just fires them off. It's very obvious that she's not even thinking. She just gets excited and her fingers start working. How often does she do this? Daily, weekly, monthly? OP replies, like daily, sometimes many times per day. In a more concise explanation of the issue, we have one chat app. I enjoyed texting with her during the day. When I got the watch, I agreed to let her send me notifications on my wrist, so long as they weren't excessive. The problem is that I want to turn on Do Not Disturb on her in violation of the agreement that she could text me and I'd receive notifications on my wrist. Edited to add. Same post, 9 hours later. Okay, she got home, and I just had a short but really helpful conversation with her. She said that she didn't really want to buzz me all the time, but she felt really special that she was the only person who I allowed to text me on the watch. She was sad that we lost that little intimate connection. And that makes total sense, and we both committed to finding a good solution that makes us both happy. Really sorry that I dragged so many people into this. It was a small thing that could have been solved by both of us being super vulnerable and honest with each other. I'm actually kind of interested in what the comments say about this one. Let's have a look. Not the a-hole. She sent 4 messages about a co-worker's DUI from college years ago. That was 4 text messages worthy. Cell phones, smartwatches, and instant communication are useful, but sometimes people just want a little peace and quiet. I know I'll be downvoted, but you sound like a patronizing a-hole. No a-holes here. Do you even like her? Hopefully she learns not to reach out to you excitedly, because it's not important to you. Are you familiar with the concept of love bids? I'm grossly paraphrasing here, but basically, there is this study done of married couples in a cabin, and there was a cool bird outside. When one partner would ask the other to look at the cool bird, couples who shared that experience had a way higher chance of their marriage lasting a long time, while couples where one person got excited and tried to share, but the other just kind of shrugged it off, had a higher divorce rate. Your wife is telling you things that she's excited about because she loves you and wants to share them with you, even if it's inconsequential. You are telling her that your work is more important, you don't care, she's an annoyance. Over time, that's going to internalize, and even if she sticks around, it's going to make her feel really bad. Because you don't care about the small stuff, so why would you care about the big stuff? Honestly, soft, you're the a-hole. I don't think you're wrong for not wanting a million notifications, but there's some sort of blockage going on here where she wants to reach out, and you want to smack that hand away. Yeah, I reckon that comment really nailed it for me as well. Neither side is really strongly wrong or right, but if I had to lean somewhere, it would be towards OP being the a-hole. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, let's jump to an update. Should be interesting. I wanted to update this to share some things I learned while we resolved this problem. Obviously, it ended up fine. It was a small problem that bubbled over, not a real issue. For people out there with ADHD partners, especially guys with ADHD girlfriends and wives, I learned 2 things that could help you in the future. 1. Rejection sensitivity is a common symptom of ADHD, especially in women. It stings extra when someone tells you no. That's why I got a big reaction from my wife. I didn't feel like I was rejecting her, only setting a boundary, but she felt differently, and her feelings mattered to me. 2. Lots of people with ADHD have been told their entire lives that they are too much, and that they should take it down a notch. This is true of my wife, who has a very big personality. Hearing me ask her to control her wrist buzzes seemed a lot to her like I was telling her to be smaller, to shut up. Those 2 things combined created hard feelings on her end. There was always going to be some conflict when I set that boundary, but I could have been more sensitive, and she could have been more communicative and understanding. These are the travails of marriage. It was a little speed bump and we got over it, thanks to all the commenters. Edit to add, this was the solution. Honestly, it's so dumb simple. We moved the Us app, Google Chat, to her second screen and moved the app we use with everyone, Signal, to her home screen. She can still access my wrist, but she has to think about it for an extra quarter second. It has solved 100% of the problem. Alright folks, so there you have it. That was the solution to the problem, and all in all, a pretty good ending. He set a boundary, and she ended up respecting it after a little talking out. That's what you like to see, communication. Either way, let's jump to our final story for today. Okay, our final story was posted by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for going to my sister's university? Me and my sister used to be close, but when I was 5 and she was 7, I got sick up until I was 15. Because I was sick, my parents often stopped her from doing normal things on my account. At first, I was okay with her doing kid stuff, but at one point I got bitter and kind of guilt-tripped my parents and her to let her stay with me. But I did that up until I was 12. After I noticed that it was leading to a strain in our relationship and her hating me, I tried to get back on her good side because she was no longer enthusiastic to stay with me like before. When we would play games and she would sing and do things with me, I tried to convince my parents to let her do stuff because she would come back from school, then spend 5 to 7 hours with me, then go home, and that cycle would repeat itself. But my parents still insisted on it and thought I was being brave, even though I would beg them to let her have a life. When I turned 15, I had surgery and was doing better, but I was still dealing with some side effects from the drugs I was taking. But that only lasted a year. My parents had finally let her do things that she wanted to do. This was like midway through her junior year, but the damage was already done. She had stopped communicating with me and my parents. Like when we'd sit down to dinner and she'd only say one word to my parents and then lock the door to her room. And she didn't have any friends. She told my aunt, and my aunt told my parents, because she was worried about her mental health. My parents tried to do family therapy before she left for college, but she still didn't communicate. She could literally spend a whole month without saying a word to anyone. When she went to college, she cut off our parents and me. She changed her number and everything. Last year, after doing some research, I found her on Instagram. She seemed much happier there. Found out her university and applied there. I wanted to rekindle our relationship now that she seemed to be in a better mental space. Last semester, I contacted her through university email and told her we could meet for coffee. She ignored all of my emails. This year, I decided to be more direct, so I went to her student organisation and told her hi. She ignored me, but her friends asked who I was, and I told them I was her sister, and they seemed surprised because she didn't mention me. She then told me we should go to a cafe, and she chewed me out for picking this university. She referred to it as her safe place. I'm now feeling like I may have gone about this the wrong way, but at the same time, I just wanted us to be close again. Am I the a-hole? I mean, honestly, like, her intentions are good, but you need to respect her boundaries. She's gone no contact with you and tried to move on from her old life. You need to respect that and stop stalking her, really. My boyfriend is obsessed with the idea of me losing my virginity to him. I started dating my boyfriend last April and graduated from university last year. My boyfriend, who I met through mutual friends, did not attend college or university. We are both Christians and he is not a virgin. He has had sex with a previous girlfriend. When we first met, he told me it was important to him that he date a good Christian girl. Lately, he has been making comments to me about taking my virginity, which have been increasing in frequency and intensity. How he will teach me a lot of things, show me how good sex can be, and more graphic stuff that I'd rather not repeat. At this point, I think he gets off on the idea. However, I am not a virgin. I participated in hookup culture while at university and had safe sex fairly often with men I met at bars and nightclubs or on Tinder for nearly 4 years. I am almost a different person from who I was at university. I am much more soft-spoken and I dress more conservatively and no longer drink, smoke or do drugs, which I believe has led to my boyfriend having this perception of me. What do I do? Should I let him continue to think I'm a virgin or tell him the truth and potentially ruin our relationship? I feel like I should note that while I find his comments cringy, they don't really bother me, and aside from this thing, he's great. Okay, this is a weird one to start off with. I don't know why she doesn't just tell him. Like, sure, it might change his perception of her, but if he's good quality, that really shouldn't change a thing in regards to their relationship. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Where does he get the idea that you're a virgin from? And why have you not told him you're not one the first time he brought it up? OP, you are bonkers if you think this is okay. As you don't find his comments bothering, then tell him the truth. If it ends the relationship, then you were obviously wrong about him, and he was and is the creep that he sounds like. One of the key points that I think you're missing here is that if you decide to have sex with him, the moment you are no longer a virgin in his eyes, you have been devalued. I don't know how comfortable you are with the idea of him obsessing over you because of your virginity, but on the surface, this really sounds like a relationship that is doomed to failure. Yeah, that last comment really hit the nail on the head, I reckon. What do you guys think? Anyway, let's jump to the update. Thank you everyone for your advice. I read every comment, even the hurtful ones. I ended up deciding to tell my boyfriend the truth. Initially I was leaning towards not doing this, but as a lot of commenters mentioned, if he loved me before knowing this, it shouldn't change anything. Before I get into it, there are things I want to clear up from the original post that a lot of people mentioned. 1. I probably shouldn't have used the word obsessed. It's not something he brought up every day, just a little more than what I thought would be normal, and I was starting to feel a lot of anxiety and guilt about the whole situation and about lying. 2. I'm 22. I turn 23 soon, so I just wrote 23. I didn't know this would have such an effect on the story, clearing this up since a lot of people were saying the timing didn't make sense. 3. Losing, I know, sorry, my bad spelling really upset some of you. 4. I did not make this up. I was freaking out about what to do, and couldn't exactly ask our mutual friends about this situation, so I made this throwaway account according to the subreddit rules. I met up with my boyfriend the next day, since he had the day off, and told him that I'm not a virgin, plain and simple. I didn't tell him exactly how many sexual partners I've had, but I did tell him I had sex with a few different people when I was at university, and none obviously since we started dating, and that I was too embarrassed and worried to tell him this before because he kept talking about taking my virginity and seemed excited about it. He wasn't happy that I kept it from him for so long, which is totally fair, but he said it's okay. The past is the past, and it doesn't matter if it's not my first time ever. It'll still be our first time, and that's just as special. I just got too lost in my head about it. I love him a lot, and I didn't want to lose him. Not knowing how he might react was driving me a little crazy. He confirmed that the comments were his awkward way of telling me he's ready. He didn't mean to make it weird, and was just trying to hype me up. We ended up doing it too. Everything was great. Fast forward to this past Friday, I confronted him about being kind of distant, not responding to my texts, being weird about making plans for my upcoming birthday. I told him that if he was planning a surprise party to call it off, as I hate surprises. He said he wasn't, so I dropped it. Well, this morning, he texted me to tell me that he didn't want to be together anymore, and thinks it would be better if we were friends. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I'm so heartbroken. I've been crying all day. I can barely move. I wrote this update, but I wasn't going to post it since everything had worked out. I guess God had other plans. I think the worst part is that I'm just really lonely now. We shared all our friends and his family became mine, since I'm not close with my family. I feel like I have nothing and no one. So thanks, I guess, to everyone who commented. At least I know I did the right thing by telling the truth. Yeah, I had a feeling this would happen. No matter how many times you might say it's okay, like if someone was hyping something like that up so much, like they're obviously going to be disappointed to a point where, yeah, he might not want to be your boyfriend anymore. He's obviously got some weird infatuation with taking someone's virginity, and now that you've told him that, he sees you as not pure or anything like that anymore. That's just my take on it anyway. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you have told the boyfriend? And if you were the boyfriend, would that have been a problem for you? Honestly, it shouldn't be a problem for anyone, but maybe it's her dishonesty about the situation, not letting him know earlier, that made him kind of distrust her in a way that he couldn't go on anymore. Either way, let me know what you think, and we'll jump to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Married Leprechaun, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for refusing to go to my own birthday dinner? Using a throwaway because my sister-in-law knows my main. So, a little backstory. I, 25 female, and my husband, Vernon, 36, have been married for 5 years. It was arranged by my grandfather and his uncle. We are not American, so it's common here. Vernon wasn't too thrilled about the marriage, and he made it very clear because he was already in a relationship with Felicity, 30, female. Long story short, Vernon, his family, and Felicity did the most to make my life hell, and my idiot was stuck on the idea that one day he might change. About 3 years ago, I found out I was pregnant, and I was excited, but he wasn't, given we only had sex a handful of times before that. He got it into his head that it wasn't his. The baby had complications, and I had to get a medical abortion. Not once did he or his family come to the hospital, and I guess that opened my eyes, and I just stopped caring. I stopped trying. I just stopped caring. Early last year, he suddenly started caring, coming home early, calling me, bringing me flowers. It was quite uncomfortable for me. Then he tells me that he's had a change of heart and wants to try better in our marriage because he's developed feelings for me. It's all fishy to me, honestly. I wouldn't trust this man as far as I can throw him. He's been doing these little things and I just can't shake that there's a joke coming at my expense. Now, onto the story. It was my birthday last weekend, and Vernon told me his family was hosting me a birthday dinner. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, and the last time I was at his parents', they literally told me my baby's complications were my fault and kicked me out because Felicity was uncomfortable, not to mention that they haven't apologized, just started acting friendly. I kept telling him no and he kept insisting. He let it go and I assumed that was that. I made plans and went out with my mum and cousins, and he starts calling me asking me where I am. I tell him and he tells me that he's waiting for me. What? Long story short, his family is mad that I skipped because they apparently wanted to apologize so that we could move forward, and Vernon keeps saying he understands why I did it, but has been apologizing for everything and nothing. Last night, Felicity called to cuss me out because they've left her high and dry, and Vernon wants nothing to do with her, so maybe they did want to apologize. I thought I was in the right, but now even my cousins are telling me I was wrong for skipping. Now I'm doubting myself. Am I the a-hole? Alrighty folks, chuck your answers down below, and we'll see what the consensus is. Anyway, let's jump to the comments. OP elaborates a bit more. About OP. Yes, I do work as a teacher. I don't make much since everything in the house is taken care of by Vernon. I've managed to save up a sustainable amount. I can leave and there wouldn't be much consequences on myself. Nothing physical anyway. It's my family that would suffer, because me leaving would cause them to be shunned by the community. This means they won't be allowed in shops. They could starve and people would watch them because their morals would be put to question. I'm looking into ways to take them with me to the next city. Birth control. Birth control isn't exactly a thing here because it defeats the whole populate the earth thing, so I only get one option, which I don't completely trust, but we haven't had sex in a year, but I have it just in case. Why did his uncle arrange the marriage? I'm sorry, I don't know how to add an edit to the post, but yes, his uncle is the head of the family and doesn't like Felicity because she's not from our culture. Vernon didn't go against his uncle because it would lead to his shunning. Marrying me had benefits, such as the house we live in and a piece of land in the farming areas, so I guess that was it. His uncle mentioned to the family that the only way the marriage would end was if I was to initiate it. I didn't know about any of this, and everything has started making more sense now. And one last comment from OP. Honestly, I don't understand the elders' reasoning behind our marriage. All I know is that I was of age to marry, and had to marry before I was out of season. At the beginning, I truly believed we could work it out, because that's how most of my relatives' marriages started out, and they're happy now. After I realised it was a lost cause, I couldn't leave because a divorce is unacceptable unless there is physical abuse. When Felicity called me to cuss me out, she spilled the beans about the house being a benefit of the marriage, and the uncle not liking her because she's not from our culture. I plan on asking V or the others about more information, because I'm in the dark and it's killing me. I want to make a well-informed decision on my next step going forward. At this point, I'm only staying because I don't want my family to suffer the shame of me leaving. Gee, sounds like Opie's stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Let's have a look at what the comments think. Not the a-hole. Even if they were sincere, a birthday party is not the place to apologise. I understand your hesitation as that's perfect place for an ambush. They can come to you and apologise if that was their intent. Also, block the girlfriend. Why was she still around if he's now married? Edited to add he's love bombing you. Find out why. Not the a-hole. The only reason why he's suddenly interested in you is because you stopped being interested in him. The moment he gets you back emotionally, he'll be back to his cheating ways. You deserve to spend your birthday with people who love you. You owe nothing to his family. Is divorce an option for you? Is there any way to get out of this marriage? I know it was arranged, so maybe that isn't possible in your culture or religion. But if you can, run. It's not remotely okay that you're forced to marry someone who is not only in love with someone else, but that someone else was still involved with him and his family, and they expected you to be around her. This whole thing is toxic. Alright folks, let's jump straight to the update. Wow, I wasn't expecting this to get as much attention as it has. I'm overwhelmed and I'm sorry if I won't manage to reply to everyone. Thank you for your kind words and advice. Some more info on my family because I saw repeating questions in the comments. My family didn't know about most of what was going on. I chose to not tell them, but they still found out, and are still willing to handle the effects of me leaving, but I can't let them do that. Everyone is happy and this would disrupt their lives greatly. I can't bring myself to that, especially to my little nieces. A few hours after I made the post, I decided to have a talk with Vernon after he came home from work. It went somewhat okay. I followed some advice in the comments about starting over on my terms. I asked him questions I needed answers to, and he gave me answers. I wasn't completely satisfied, but it's a start. I told him I would give our marriage a chance, but he had to know he was completely done with Felicity and would be completely on board with this. I told him to stop with the love bombing because it was making me uncomfortable. I told him I would absolutely not be having kids in the near future. I told him I was in no way ready to be his wife, and we would continue with our separate rooms. Surprisingly, he was on board with all of this, and said that he wasn't a boy anymore, and that he was getting older and he needed to sort himself out and make things right. I asked him if he only had a change of heart because he wanted me to take care of him in his old age, and he said no. He said he realised that Felicity isn't what he's always wanted, and started seeing her manipulative, toxic ways. His words. He said he was willing to put the house in only my name, it's 40% mine, entirely as a way of showing that he is all in and wouldn't mess up if I give us a second chance. He said he was willing to give me as much space as I need. He said he'll have a word with his family about me meeting time and space and taking baby steps. Honestly, I don't know where this will go at this point. I don't know the direction in which we are headed, but I'm willing to try so I can have a free conscience. I've started making a backup plan to leave, but that's in the worst case scenario. I'll update if anything significant happens. Okay, let's jump to the final update. Hey everyone, so a few things happened that I thought you'll needed to know. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for your care and support. I never thought I'd cry after reading words, but you have no idea how much courage your kind words have given me. I told Vernon to go through with the transferring of the house into my name, and he did. I guess he knew he would be getting more money, so now I own the house. Nobody was telling me anything about the 180 change, so I decided to go to Felicity. I know it was stupid. She was the only one who was willing to give me any information since she's spiteful, and I think I got what I needed. It's not much, but it's enough to cement my decision. Turns out, Felicity had her womb removed when she was younger, so she can't give Vernon children. The whole family found out and turned against her. And Uncle has been speaking of retiring, and Vernon has been at war with Uncle's sons to either take over the business or become one of the decision makers, and a child would guarantee that he would give a large sum of the company's shares that would be in his name and the child's, and since Felicity couldn't give him a child, I was the solution. Felicity told me as much as she knew, and so I went to one of Vernon's cousins. I confronted him about what Felicity said, and after a heated back and forth, he finally confirmed everything. I don't know why, but that hurt. Even though I knew it was too good to be true, I still held on to hope that maybe I was wrong. After conversation, I decided to play along until I could get out. He completely cut out Felicity, and it's scary just how much he's acting like she never existed. I put in a transfer to a city 12 hours away from here. My head teacher knows my situation, and swore not to tell them. I brought up moving to my family, and a majority of them said I'd be selfish if I did that, and their whole lives are here, and all of that, but honestly I feel like I should put myself first. I told them it was just a thought, and that I would never do that. My mum and brother have been my biggest support system, and I'm taking them with me. My cousin is moving with my little nieces to his wife's city, so that's that. I found a house where my mum, brother, 2 cousins and I will stay. I listed this house for sale on a private auction page. This will cause a big blowout, but I won't be here, so lol. I leave this place in about 40 days, and the most tiring thing is to get my affairs in order without arousing suspicion. I refused to be intimate with Vernon and told him I wasn't ready. He told me we'll work on my time, but I see him getting more and more frustrated each day. Even though I'm scared for myself and my family on what they'll do when they find out, I've decided to leave, and I'm not changing my mind. I'm still young, and honestly I don't want to end up like my mother, in a loveless marriage with a cheating alcoholic. It took words of internet strangers for me to realise that, and I'm so grateful. I'm sorry if this is all over the place. I'll update if anything changes. Holy moly, what a toxic situation, and what an awful family. Firstly cutting out Felicity just because she couldn't have children, and then using OP as a kind of substitute. Yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, I'm glad OP is getting out of there. Let me know what you guys reckon about this one in the comments, and we'll move on to our last story for today. Okay, our last story was written by user Kaleidoscope Left, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my ex and telling her to stop trying to make our kids perform for her after the death of her husband? My ex-wife and I share 2 children. Our daughter is 13 and our son is 11. She was remarried for 7 years and has 2 children with her late husband. He died a week ago. My kids were not close to the man. He was a hard ass, and the kids found him overly strict, and I agree, and they didn't like being around him. The relationship at best was strained, but they confided in me over the years that they hoped their mum would leave them. She loved the guy though, and when he died last week, she was a mess. Our kids were with me when it happened, and she wanted to see them, so I brought them over. They comforted their mum, and she told them repeatedly it was okay to cry, it was okay to miss him, that they were all going to miss him. The kids said nothing. She kept repeating it. I told her I thought the kids got it. When the kids saw their mum again, she was halfway through planning the funeral, and asked if they would be able to do a reading or something for the funeral. The kids said that they wouldn't be able to. She was with them a while and then said, since they weren't crying much, maybe they could take a reading and see how they did on the day. Kids told me about it when I spoke to them, and they asked if I could talk to their mum. I told my ex not to force the reading. The funeral day came. I showed up for my kids. They were hanging back with me a lot, and they told me their mum kept watching them, which I witnessed myself. For the funeral I sat behind them since she wouldn't let them sit with me. She told us that all her husband's kids should be seated up front, and I didn't have the heart to tell her they weren't his kids on the day of her husband's funeral when she was such a mess. So I bit my tongue and supported my kids. It was after the service when everything went down. The kids came to sit in my car for a while and we were laughing about something. X came over and asked how they could be laughing when they had just buried their stepdad, and why did they show no grief at all over the loss of the man who was part of their lives for 7 years. She said it was almost like they were glad he was gone. She told them they should have been looking way more somber after he passed. She told them if they didn't really care, they clearly needed help because her husband loved them. I stepped in and told her to lay off the kids. They were kids. She told me to stop interfering in how she parents our kids. My daughter ended up getting mad at her mum and told her she wasn't sad he was gone. He was a butt and she had always hoped she would leave him. She stormed off and my son followed. X was going crazy and I yelled and told her to cut it out and to stop trying to make our kids perform a grieving routine over her husband. I told her they were trying to support her and she should be proud of them for that. She started yelling back at me about what a jerk I am, so I walked away. Am I the a-hole? Well, I'm going to go with not the a-hole, personally. Like, if your kids don't miss the guy, then they don't miss him. I don't see how OP's done anything wrong here. It's obvious the wife's very emotional at this point. But yeah, it still doesn't mean you can go screaming at the kids. She's just trying really hard to believe something that isn't true. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know about it in the comments. Anyway, that's it from me today, folks. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.